Welcome to the Rebellion.
Thank you. I think I've already been a part of it for a while.
How long you been part of the Rebellion?
Since the day I saw you post that word on Facebook.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it that we posted out there?
It's when you posted your first podcast.
Really?
And I saw that logo, and I was like, yeah.
It gives me chills.
It's like that's what I am. But then, when I was little, I was always called a rebel. So it was like I found home.
Yeah.
And then I started listening. And I was like, because I met you down at the convention with the GRA in Noonan. And of course,
my rookie speech.
Yeah, but it was moving, and that was what was so crazy. I probably freaked you out that day that I walked up and tears in my eyes, and I was like, I haven't had that emotion since Ronald Reagan. And mind you, that was my first president I got to vote for, and the first time I ever heard him speak, excuse me, I was in a bar.
You were in a bar?
I was in a bar.
Yeah.
Because in 18 you could go to a bar.
Yeah, sure.
And I was sitting there at the bar, and the bartender, I said, can you just turn that up a minute? And he went over and turned it, and I sat there in a bar crying. And I know people will think, well, she's a crying drunk, but I had not even had anything to drink at that time. And
you're just a passionate, there's something that you feel for the country that there's an underlining nerve there and an emotion. Trust me, there have been times, in my past where, we've talked, just in the last show with Kelly when we had her on, where, those emotions, whether it's, the Star Spangled Banner in certain, cases, or a stirring speech like that, when people do talk about the ideas of, individual liberty and strength in that type of, in that type of society, where people just give, everything that they've ever had to that cause. Like that is a very stirring thing. But, well, that's cool. I was freaked out that day too. I was like, I'm going to go out and announce, that I'm running for U.S. Congress. Like, who am I? Like, and then to have that kind of response afterward, I was like, oh man, maybe we're actually onto something.
Well, the girl sitting beside me, Tammy, she kept looking over me. She's, are you okay? Are you okay? I was like, do you not hear what he's saying? Just don't close your eyes. Don't look at him saying them. Close your eyes and listen to what he's saying. She was like, oh. I was like, and that's what I think people are missing.
Yeah.
We get so wrapped up in the visual that we don't hear the words. And you have to be able to remove everything that's a distraction.
Yeah. And
that's what's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah, what do they say? 80+% of what people hear in a speech is visual anyway. Mm-hmm. It's a weird thing, isn't it? Like 80% of what you convey in a speech is visual. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, I don't know if I actually believe that. I think different people have different ways of inputting things. Yeah. And as much as it annoys me when people say this, people say, yeah, Ron Paul just said things all the wrong way, had the whole visual aspect was wrong. I actually like the more meek demeanor. But I think people input things differently. Yeah. Because it doesn't really matter to me who is saying that they love liberty. Like, that excites me.
But you're a rare entity.
You are a rare entity, even within the rare circle that is this group, Banks.
So I appreciate the compliment. It makes me smile. But to talk about John Gatto,
John Taylor Gatto. Oh, wow. Have you been reading?
No, I have not. But you talk about him all the time.
Yeah, man.
So it sticks in my brain. But the thing about genius, we're all geniuses, and the pipeline kind of gets filtered down to one thing, and we eliminate it all. Yeah. And your example of how your friend wasn't kind of taking in what Shane was saying in the same way makes me think that we act very unnaturally in politics. It's an unnatural thing. And so we've been kind of conformed to wait for all these cues and so forth. And I think that if we could react naturally, people would have maybe some confidence. And Debra might be one of the most confident people I've ever seen in politics.
That's been the nicest thing I've probably been called.
I'll definitely echo that. One of the main reasons that we thought to do these types of interviews, we wanted to have you and Kelly Warren in here at the same time. I'm kind of glad we didn't. It might even be fun to do later on, now that you guys are going to be known to our audience, because I think there's just too much to unpack all at one time per person. But to see you guys be able to play off of each other and kind of understand, you are especially vocal out there right now, and I see it, and I love it. But the more than that, I'm gravitated to it, because I'm starting to see these splinters, these breakaways that don't care, that are putting the principle over politics and over party and over personalities and things like that. And wherever I can find that, I'm the passion that goes into the understanding of bucking your own party, and that's the thing is, when you talk about this kind of being unnatural, it's because this is I hate to say it, but I mean, it's high school or college. It's a clique, and it's one of those things where if you're not cool within your clique and the people who decide who are cool, or the people who have power, if you're not cool compared to these people, or you're not supporting these people who are already in office, who are taking awful votes out there, and obviously the awful votes result in monstrous debt, war, a police state, and the loss of individual liberty here at home. Like, once you understand it from that perspective, it's hard to go in a different direction and to speak out against this in such a forceful, passionate, public manner where you just don't care what anyone thinks anymore. Is it a relief?
But I've always been that way. So to say it's a relief, I can't say that it's a relief, because I don't know what that would feel like, since I've never felt confined to that cage.
Yeah, but when you hit that, you sit down and you write, because you write. I mean, you'll sit down and put down, more than your just your quip or your snarky. Like, you're not that way. You put down, paragraphs.
Yeah.
Quite often, you put paragraphs, and so when you hit publish, and bam, it goes. Is that one of those things where you're just like, that felt really good?
I don't do it to feel good. I do it because I believe people need to know it.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like we need to continue hiding. The one thing I have an issue with the Republican Party is they want to put on this front, we all get along, we all believe the same way. Well, you might not believe them, but let's don't put it out there that we disagree with them. And I'm like, are you kidding me? If we disagree with them, then they're making bad decisions. Why are we standing behind them? Why is the Republican Party not vetting? They're afraid to vet. I literally think they're afraid to call people out on it. The one thing that drew me to Banks, and I'll never forget this, was in a meeting. He stood up, and I think it was a resolution. And of course, and I was telling my husband on the way over here that no one can write a resolution like Banks was. So he's standing there and he's reading this resolution, and I'm thinking, he is kicking what, and they are not going to like him.
You can say ass on the show. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
Anything Bart Simpson can say, you can say, Banks was kicking ass.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this guy. And so I just watched him in the room. I watched him when he disagreed with a resolution that was put up and basically told them that it was useless, it was worthless. Yeah. And I was like, love this guy. He has no fear. I'm drawn to people who have no fear.
There's a little bit of fear there. So it's
not fear, it's courage.
I'm used to doing it now, but like I'll still like shake a little bit when I'm at some. But it doesn't happen that much anymore. But like it does.
That's normal for most people.
Yeah, most people are not public speakers, right? I mean, they're not. And
they're not.
And the people who are public speakers, you know why they're public speakers? Because they've done it over and over again, to the point where it's just like this is almost their job. Like this culture rewards people who can speak.
So the reason I say that is to encourage other people to say it, and it kind of goes to the point that nobody let me finish earlier. I'm kidding, it doesn't matter. But is that everybody says all these things? Like if you're in politics, you have these individual relationships with a lot of the people. Some of the people never want to be your friend. It's very sad. And they'll say things that they never say publicly. They'll say, yeah, there's a problem, or I don't like this candidate, or I don't like that, or they'll just sigh very, very quietly next to you while something's happening. And they'll also say the thing we've all heard. It's like, well, I'd vote for that guy, but he's never going to win. Imagine if everybody was natural, and that's for lack of a better term, but natural, and they all said at the same time, aloud, I'd vote for him, but he's not going to win. Then they'd all look at each other and be like, aha!
Holy cow, look at all of us! Look at our numbers!
And even if it wasn't enough to get the guy elected, as long as you had, like, so I say Debra, like, I give her a lot of praise because she's given me encouragement. I don't necessarily need it to make the basic actions, but if you have somebody else, at least one other person, two other people who, while everybody's booing you, you know there's at least somebody who, I don't know, if they attack you, is going to, like, try to save you or something.
I got you back. I got you back.
I know. So if there's at least a few people and people acted more naturally, they could be supported by each other instead of having this default sense of security by looking for all the cues. It's like, oh, we're supposed to like him because he's the president, and we're supposed to clap every time and just sigh quietly when he says something we don't like.
But that goes back to them being, and I know I'm going to be hated for this, and I really don't care. We have grown, or they have grown themselves into being the most uninformed voters I have ever come across.
Who's this?
The general populace.
The public.
The ignorant public.
Absolutely.
I was walking through Lowe's thinking, I mean, and here, God, my brain. I was walking through Lowe's yesterday. My wife and I were out grabbing some things while the kids were in jiu-jitsu practice last night or something like that. And I was having that thought. I was like, because of John Taylor Gatto and all these books, I'm into another book right now, and I think it's by Boyack, and it's something about skipping college or something.
Oh, it's a great book. I've read that.
Wow,
it's a great book.
It is. I mean, I'm only a little ways into it, but already I'm sitting there going, God, if there's a problem of our time, and where America took the absolute wrong U-turn was when government got into education. Right?
Absolutely.
It's not that, like we said, geniuses, you know, I shouldn't say, like John said, like Shane's going to say here, genius is pretty common. You know, it really is. Genius is really common because everybody's given that gift, you know, that to give back to the world is what I believe anyway. And to see this country of 300 million geniuses, potential geniuses, and the ignorance of those geniuses. All right, why do we have such a gap? Why do we have such a gap? And it's not because you got the people out there are stupid. They're not sheep. It's because they've been indoctrinated and beat down and stifled and oppressed and enslaved, and their communities have been destroyed by over-policing and law and whatever the state wants to do, and they've just accepted, like,
so
this is the way
think
it
it's
is.
more of the latter things you said. It's the enslavement and the fear thing, because, and if we're talking specific about people in political parties, I'm sure it's all political parties. It might happen less within the Libertarian Party because they want to go towards certain principles more, but not completely.
They're still talk principle though.
But if we're talking about the Republican Party specifically, it's kind of willingly. It's not that they're ignorant. They can listen to the things. They can recognize the things because they know, because they recognize the cues of the establishment. They know when they're supposed to be angry at hearing certain things. They know that if I go up there and I say the Constitution says XYZ, and already they might not pay much attention because the cue is you're not supposed to look at the details, because the details are, you know, what I think is a stupid analogy of that's how the sausage is made, and we have to just accept that it's ugly.
Yeah.
But if that's followed by, so that is why President Trump is wrong about this, they know they're supposed to say, oh, boo, boo, or something like that.
Yeah.
If you say the word liberty a little too much, they know that they're supposed to tune that out.
Right.
If you say something like the party doesn't matter, then they know that they're supposed to attack at this point. So I don't think they're necessarily ignorant, because if they were ignorant, they wouldn't know to be angry at certain things, and they definitely get very angry at certain things.
It boils down to everybody wants to be a part of something, and if you buck what they're a part of, then you're the bad guy. They don't know that they don't have to be a part of that.
Well, and they're scared.
They're scared to death.
It's more the fear and the enslavement and so forth.
You know, this land of the free, which we are not, and home of the brave, which I contend we are definitely not, right? We are definitely not the home of the brave anymore. And, you know, when we talk about these people that either bring you to tears or get you extremely riled up, right? Banks was up there. I know Banks hates public speaking. I mean...
I actually don't hate it that much. It does make me feel good just in a selfish way when I say something and get like a bunch of hate and some praise at the same time. Like, it is a weird dynamic. At first, there was all these Ron Paul people I was involved with at first who would always have your back. But when they kind of went away and there weren't as many, having the booze and having the lots of support is great, but there's these people in the middle, which is actually the most intriguing, who will come up afterwards and say, "Wow," and they'll have stayed silent, but they'll say, "Hey, you made like a really good point," and I see gears in their head. I don't mean to put myself on a pedestal, but I see gears in their head. I feel like they're almost like uplifted by the possibility of having what I would think is a much more normal environment. Even if you disagree, you respect people who make good points. And it's kind of a sense of freedom. It's like, hey, I'll have people who disagree with me, people who ran against me and beat me, because I lose most of the elections for committee positions and so forth, who will say, hey, I can recognize that they're like, this was an open dialogue, and you didn't like cower, and you didn't also attack me in the same ways that politicians or people in politics kind of attack each other. And that sense of freedom has created in what used to be a despicable place for politics, which is the Cobb Republican political arena. And I'm not putting words in Debra's mouth. This is just me talking. But it made what used to be a despicable place into a much friendlier place where I am friends with who are my ideological enemies. Like, people I did disagree with on most things. And we're friends.
I think what I was getting at, though, is I think we kind of missed the point. You know, the land of the free and the home of the brave is you're not brave because there's no fear, right? You're not. You're brave because you overcome that fear, and to speak publicly, to be nervous, to have that little shake in your hand and your voice, to have your palms sweaty, to know that you're going to go out and basically subject yourself to ridicule, to hate, to name calling, to being unpopular in this environment of popularity. That is bravery. That is what I don't see. I don't see that. Like when we had the episode about transgendering and injections and things like that, where you don't see these people who are experts in their industry or in their practice or whatever it is that are coming out and standing and being brave in the face of ridicule and scorn and hatred and things. That's what this country was founded on. It was founded when people found their own voices and said, no, enough. This is outrageous. And the passion that drove them, that's what I miss. Like, if I could help people understand how great it feels to find that voice and to overcome any type of fear that you have, right? Yeah. That is one of the most powerful things, I think, that drives a society towards more individual liberty.
Yeah. Well, and too, when I'm writing, sometimes I'll use those catchwords that I know is going to invoke emotion. Yeah. Because I would rather somebody hate me and come after me, because then I know they're listening. If they don't respond, in my mind, I'm going, let me go back and see what I wrote. What can I change that will just either piss them off or get them to agree with me and come back? I know I posted something the other day intentionally on there on my Facebook page about if we paid politicians less and teachers more, something along the line of where if you pay the teachers more, then we would get smarter kids. And because I had not heard from Sam Moore in a while, and I knew if I posted that he would come out of the woodwork. And it wasn't a few minutes later, here's Sam. I was like, wonder where you've been. But it's people like meeting Banks and Michael Davis and Alex and Catherine Bernard and Jack Staver and Ron Hooper and all of those that I was like, they're out there and they're working in the background.
Yeah. How do we get them into the spotlight?
Well, I think they intentionally work in the background because, I hate to say this, but the takeover's easier in the background. But then you've got your more vocal ones. There's a place for everyone in those dynamics. But the vocal ones like Alex and Catherine Bernard and Jack Staver have been phenomenal to be around. Learned a lot from Michael Davis. Michael Davis is not as loud.
Right.
But my gosh, at the strategic power he has just blew me away. The first time I ever met him was when we got elected, and I was simply elected to the Cobb GOP because I think they didn't have anybody else, and I really didn't want to, and agreed to. And then, of course, at District 11, I was just put up there to beat the other guy. But when I met Michael, just met him once, and wasn't quite sure of where he was with all of this, so I was real quiet until we started painting the GOP office, and we kind of started talking, and I made a statement about putting up these big banners, and I was like, I really don't want the Statue of Liberty one up there. And Michael kind of looked at me, and he was like, well, why do you not want it up there? And I said, it was a coward's gift. And his son was in the room, and he looked at his son. I said, I'm sorry, I'll shut up. He says, no, I want you to tell me why you think that. And I said, we go and fight for this country who's too chicken to fight for themselves, and they send us this statue that everybody bows down to, and now they're stabbing us in the back. Why don't we break that sucker apart and ship it back over to them?
Wow.
And so Michael,
why do you hate America?
And so Michael's son's standing there. Well, then later at another meeting, Michael's son walks up to me and he says, Miss Debra, I talked to my dad about what you said, and so he kind of showed me what was going on, and he said, but you're right, it was a present because we fought. I was like, that's how I look at it. Yeah. If we're going to fight for you, and then you turn around and stab us in the back the way France has done, take her back. Yeah. You know, I don't have the Statue of Liberty in my house, and I won't. Yeah. Because people have stopped adoring the flag. Yeah. And they're adoring the Statue of Liberty. And I'm like, okay.
I still see both, but
yeah. And I look at the Liberty Bell.
Yeah.
Well, why aren't they gaga over the Liberty Bell?
Yeah. That's funny because for all the things that make it harder for us, the fact that we're a smaller portion, I don't think we're a plurality of some sort. This makes it easier because the reason that Michael was intrigued is because you were pushing back against something you're not supposed to. And so anybody who has the ability to not conform to the system, kind of our little like antennas, our liberty antennas are like, oh, this person might understand more than leads on.
Yeah, we went to New York. I refused to
go out there, huh?
Yeah. Well, we went out there because the friends of ours wanted to go out there and see it, but I refused to go in.
Wow. I've never been there. I've never been to New York City. I have zero ambition to ever visit that place. But
I mean, it's a big place with a lot of culture.
Yeah.
So I go in there because I want to. I love watching people. Yeah. Just seeing how they interact, especially standing there on Ellis Island. And that's when I realized people have this all wrong. And this is just my opinion. Okay. They have it all wrong. Yeah. They're just oohing and ahhing, and you know. And even some people have the story wrong. And I'm like, really?
Public indoctrination.
Yeah. And so I'm standing there, and my best friend is who I went with. She says, y'all want to go up there? And I was like, nope. She's like, we can come all the way to New York, and you don't want to go up to the Statue of Liberty? Nope.
Just going to hang out. No, Did they go?
No, they didn't go.
They didn't go either, huh?
No, because I told her how I felt. Oh. And of course, my BFF, you know, she's as outspoken as I am. Yeah. Which is why we get along so well. She's like, well, I've never thought of it that way. I said, you're welcome to go. Yeah. I said, but don't come down here telling me anything about it. But now going over and you know, going through the stories of how the people immigrated over and what they had to go through, that meant more to me than the statue. They were here for a better life. Yeah. They weren't here for all this free stuff from the government, because that's not what they were leaving for. Their suppression, the reason they left their suppression was to start somewhere where they literally contributed and felt worthy.
And probably got to keep the fruits of their labor. And
they helped make America great. Mm-hmm. The immigration that we have now is that's not the mindset they're coming in with.
It's completely different than the way they used to do it, and on purpose. I mean, I think there's obviously, and I'm going to say a conspiracy, right? But I think there is an overt type of relocation to the United States right now to kind of take the culture and dilute it. I mean, that's what happened. You look back in history when what was it? Edward the Conqueror from France?
Not France.
Yeah,
there's no Edward the Conqueror.
Prince. Oh God, what was his name? He came into England as a French, kind of. Is it not King? Who was the conqueror? He was a Norman king. God Almighty! Why can I not pull his name?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Anyway, he comes into France, and what he does is he starts removing judges from the bench in the UK and moving in, getting rid of English civil law and coming in with French Norman law at that point. And this is, I think, back in the 1200s sometime. And, William the Conqueror. I'm sorry, William the Conqueror, not Edward. Jeez, Pete. Still too early. Come on, brain, don't let me down here. But that's, in terms of, bringing people in and changing law and changing the system. I mean, that's exactly what's been done here in the United States. We have this arbitrary government that's completely left its constitutional foundation. And when that happened, when you have bureaucrats running the entire naturalization, and at the federal level, no less, not only naturalization, but immigration, which was a power that was left to the states. Now what you see is this influx of people that are, the H-1B visas and crap like that, where you can have extended family, come in from all over the place. And listen, I'm all, the melting pot that it is the United States, great. We have more people immigrate here every year. I think it's 1 million plus than anywhere else in the world, right? Like no other country does that. And that's just the legal system of coming into the United States now. Not to mention the influx of people who are coming in and shipping containers and over borders and through other types of ways to get to this country, right? Like it's completely uncontrolled. Obviously a problem, but I digress. Where we're going here, where I'd like to go a little bit with talking about the rise and fall of the Republican Party, this country, what does make this country just absolutely superlative, or did make it, stand out in history, is, this conflict that we have between parties right now. We saw this week out in Kentucky, Matt Bevin, who was the sitting governor. I should say this would be last week if we go, but Matt Bevin lost, right? Matt Bevin was not a terrible guy or anything like that. But
per the establishment standard, he was above like par.
That low bar.
He was, the standard is skewed. But he was kind of more for gun rights than your typical Republican establishment guy, and kind of stood up for them a few times and had a few good talking points out there, which is usually enough for everybody to be like, he's the guy. We can't touch him. Like he's got these very low bars to attain, and that's enough for us.
Yeah, but I think what's even
so for those who don't know, like what happened.
Matt Bevin got defeated
by a Democrat.
By a Democrat. There was a Libertarian in the race. My biggest takeaway from this is the reaction from Republicans towards this right now. There's one guy here locally, and he's a public figure. He's an author, so I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. Hank Sullivan.
Well, he's a friend of ours too.
Yeah, he is a friend. He's completely damn dead wrong on what this stuff is and what's happening. And I think his his adoption and defending of personality over real principle. But he wrote something this week. The Libertarian Party of Kentucky went out and made a statement, and I'll read this, and then I want to read Hank's statement real quick. But the Libertarian Party of Kentucky said, in an ideal world, we elect libertarian candidates and advance liberty. Failing that, we push mainstream candidates towards liberty to advance the cause. But if we can't do those things, we are always happy to split the vote in a way that causes delicious tears. Tonight, there are plenty of delicious tears from Bevin supporters. Had Matt Bevin not ditched his Liberty Lieutenant Governor for Mitch McConnell, picked anti-liberty corrupt running mate who had tried to eliminate Kentuckians' jury trial rights, had Matt Bevin not presided over a huge sales tax increase, had Matt Bevin supported any of our key issues on criminal justice reform, marijuana legalization, expanded gaming, cutting taxes, or acted with the least bit of civility, we probably would not have run a candidate. Of course, he did the opposite, and here we are. We split the vote, and we could not be more thrilled. If our friends in major parties do not want this to happen again, they should think about passing ranked choice voting and supporting our issues. In the meantime, thank you to John Hicks and Constantine and Kyle, the list of people. Your efforts are greatly appreciated. For the Bevin supporters, your tears are delicious. Now, that's a hell of a statement, right? Like, it's real snarky. It's real in your face. I don't think it's probably the most constructive of statements, but it is kind of what it is out of the Libertarian Party. I mean, Libertarian Party is one of those very decentralized parties that, the messaging isn't always on point, right?
So I don't think it's constructive either, and I don't think that the Libertarian Party, just because they're underdog, and I like the underdog, okay? Like, those are my favorite.
Especially pushing for those types of issues.
But I don't think that the standards should change, and while I'm sure you're going to read what Hank wrote afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, I don't agree with that. I do think that they're worthy of some criticism that Hank doesn't go into. First thing, and there's a portion of the Libertarian Party who doesn't like this. Okay, they're just as party centric as any other party out there.
The Star Walk,
and they think that's really important.
Crowd, yeah.
Just saying that we want to elect libertarian candidates, that's the ideal. That's not actually the ideal. I'll be friends with people who have different strategies, but I'm only interested in people I want to support people who support these principles. They can even be principles that I disagree with, but somebody who goes to a party first just doesn't seem interesting. And that's one of my favorite things about Ryan Graham, is that he doesn't care about the party.
Yeah.
He donated, I think 2 days ago, to Matt Gertler, who's a Republican, has done so pretty consistently.
Yep.
And as much as the Libertarian chair would probably like Matt to become a Libertarian and run as a Libertarian, like that doesn't mean that he won't support him regardless.
Sure.
Like, the order of priority is liberty first and then Libertarian Party.
Yep.
And I find that interesting. And then the whole snarkiness about the delicious tears. There's a place for memes and that funny back and forth between people, but in a statement that's kind of
official party stuff.
That's kind of official party stuff, and on the serious note about these, I mean, the serious things about what Matt Bevin did, which were wrong, right? The compromises and the establishment things and so forth. I just don't think that's constructive, but I also don't think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think they're giving themselves a lot more credit, right?
Well, that's what you should do in politics. So you should own as much as you can own. Like, you put a flag in and you take credit, and whatever people will take seriously. And if you are confident enough, they'll take you more seriously than they should. They probably take the three of us more seriously than they should.
I
don't know. We're getting pretty serious.
But I don't think that's great. I don't think they should even be happy about splitting the vote. The only thing the Libertarian Party, if they are,
do you think they split the vote?
To some degree,
really.
I don't think the Libertarian Party, if they care about liberty, should ever say that they are thrilled or excited or ecstatic about more than one thing. That only thing is liberty, and that's the only thing. Even praising the electoral system and elections to turns me off completely.
I find it extremely interesting. I think it's more obviously they're taking credit for something that is not theirs to take credit for, first and foremost, right? Like, Matt Bevin lost this, and maybe I should read Hank's first, because it'll be more in context if I read, the response, because I'll tell you right now, the internet right now with quote unquote Republicans out there who can't stand the Libertarian Party in Kentucky for this defeat, right? I'm going to read Hank's. Self-defeating libertarians in Kentucky take themselves out of the frying pan and throw an entire state into the fire, effectively voting for a Democrat challenger to win Kentucky governor's race. They love the principle of liberty more than they love liberty in fact. There is a practical side of politics they do not understand. The irony here is that Kentucky Libertarian Party is promoting their own enslavement and reveling in the appearance and reveling in the appearance of power a small minority can wield in a close race. So, listen, Hank, I think, is, playing into this statement, right, where these guys have taken more credit than they first and foremost deserve. Matt Bevin lost because Matt Bevin couldn't get the damn votes, right? Like, if you can't get Republicans to vote for you, how the hell are you going to get libertarians to vote for you? Because I'll tell you right now, I don't know the people that make up a lot of the libertarian circles and crowds, probably for the overwhelming majority. I don't know those people that vote Republican.
So
unless
you'd be surprised, we're in bubbles, right? We're in one big bubble that we're all part of. We've all got our little bubbles, and the people we see as libertarians, the people we see in our Facebooks and at groups, are a whole different proportion of people. Just because the Libertarian Party is small doesn't mean that it's only comprised of the people we know.
Right.
The people who are actually voting might be, like in Georgia, I think like Gary Johnson got 6%.
Right.
Not my vote. And
nor mine. Right? Like, nor mine. And that's the thing is, I didn't vote for Trump. I obviously didn't vote for Hillary. And I didn't vote for Gary either.
But so we're talking about those people, 1% of those people of the 6% might be, some Ron Paul supporters, some diehard Libertarian Party members who have been in there forever. But the 5 other % are probably just as normal as your normal Republicans and normal Democrats. And they might change their vote based on different things that we in the political realm would maybe not understand as well. So I think it's possible they split the vote. I actually don't think it's that far off that they might have split the vote and cost Bevin his race. I don't think that's how elections work. You have to own
votes.
That was a lapse, but earn votes. And
that's the thing is, that for the party of individual responsibility, quote unquote, right? The Republican Party. You're sitting here like telling the libertarians that basically your vote should be ours, right? And that's the problem I have. It's so much in the same vein as the whole Democratic Party. Like these are our votes. As soon as somebody who isn't a white, straight Christian male goes out there and votes for somebody, on the Republican ticket or a Libertarian ticket or any other ticket besides the Democratic ticket, what do? They shame the hell out of them. They shame them, and they, your Uncle Tom and your bought and paid for, your house Negro and stuff like that. Like that kind of stuff. That's exactly what I see here with Hank's statement. You owe us. You guys owe us your vote, because now you're sacrificing everything and throwing us into the fire. Well, I contend.
I think he's being a little bit more like, I actually think that, for all my criticism of the Kentucky Libertarian Party and the way they phrase that, I think Hank is being quite fair and responding in the same kind of way. The only sentence that I think is unfair is that he says that they actually don't love liberty, which I think. But I think every other statement is a political response, because Hank sees things in this very practical way. As he says, it's a very political response to a political response.
He sees everything through the eyes of Trump, man, and that's the problem. Like, I love you, Hank, but damn it, dude, what you're fawning in reverence for a narcissist that is one of the biggest narcissists I've ever seen.
So no, this response has nothing to do with Trump. This has to do with how Hank sees politics. He would have the same approach in the 7th district, and with you not running, would probably support a candidate that I wouldn't think is fit. I think this is very practical and very Hank, and very fair if you're playing within politics. What I find sad for both of the cases, for Hank and the Libertarian Party of Kentucky, is that they're playing politics. And for the Libertarian Party, I find that even sadder, because I'm sure there are more people in that party who actually want to go away from from this normal politics. So
the problem is nobody has a strategy.
Well, I think this is a strategy.
Well, this is a self-defeating strategy. In the same way Hank says this is self-defeating.
Self-defeating for who, though?
For liberty.
I don't think it is.
So Hank is saying that they need to compromise.
So I think
I think that's self-defeating.
I think they definitely don't need to compromise. But I think what Hank is looking at is short term. I think Hank is.
Compromises are usually made for short term.
I think what Hank is saying here, along with a lot of other Republicans who are really pissed off about this, I think it's extremely short-sighted. When you look at a larger picture and you start to see what needs to happen for people to get uncomfortable, to be awoke or woken up, right? I see what happened under Barack Obama as one of the most positive things this country ever had to endure, right? Barack Obama was that you're a frog, there's a pot of water, let's turn it all the way up to 10, and now let's throw that frog in. What happened? People were like, you're crazy. How many people, and I don't like demographics, but you start to see what even happened in more urban areas that are controlled by Democrats. People were like, this guy isn't doing a damn thing for us. And actually, our lives have gotten worse because now when, you've got a bunch of other people coming in and taking jobs that, quote unquote, should be in this community. And they're not legal citizens, or they're just not that community or that culture. Like now you start to see these frogs going, hell no. This socialism stuff, you can, if you love your doctor, you can keep your doctor crap. That all went out the window. And so you start to see this rejection, this drawing back of people who would certainly be staunch in that party had they just turned it up a little at a time. Yeah. And so what I see with this type of thing in the long term, right? Give them the damn Democrat. Let them suffer. Let them get uncomfortable as we are. The people that love liberty more than anything else, more principle over party and over politics and over everything else. Let them get uncomfortable, because you will not win if your conscience goes towards this status, political party, personality type thing. The state's going the same place. The only damn difference you're at between the progressive left and the progressive right now is 5th and 6th gear. Right? You're going to the same damn place. It's just how fast are we getting there? And the Libertarian Party, for the most part, and the Libertarians are saying, yeah, have fun without us.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, unfortunately, though, that heat that the frog kind of feels and reacts to is not as hot when it comes to the state level, because people don't pay as much attention. Mm-hmm. There are people who are I think it's in spite of, like, all the rejection of Obama kind of grew because we've got this party politics and we pay attention to the presidential race to a different degree. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, at the state level, there might be some, but I don't think it's as much that are going to push back. I think that while that's all true, it's even easier to show the positive when somebody is pulling in the right direction. Who's the Green Party presidential candidate who ran?
Nader?
Ralph Nader.
Yeah.
So there's a great example that was explained to me a long time ago now, that I've always used to explain to people why in the Republican Party they should actually love the Libertarians, just like Reagan said that it was the heart and soul of the Republican Party.
Is.
And the reason is, you don't even have to say it out loud, but if you recognize it, you'll just like leave them alone. Maybe pass them some shekels and some support sometimes, because they're doing like something good for the Republican Party. And the example is during the 2000 election, there was that weird Florida thing with the hanging chads or whatever, and Bush won.
Yeah.
And Ralph Nader was interviewed on TV, and the reporter, I used to know his name, but said like, "Hey, do you feel bad that you cost Al Gore the election?" Because he was on the progressive green side, so that would have taken some this whole flawed
potentially.
This whole flawed concept, but that is what they're talking about. It's like, hey, do you feel guilty because you cost him the election? And under that premise, Ralph said, no. And why? Like he's smiling, he's just happy. He's like, this is a victory, because now maybe the Democrats will take the progressive side, because that's what he's advocating for, more seriously.
Yeah.
And that is actually what happened the next election. You had Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton's more the establishment kind of center. senator candidate, and Obama became that. But at the time, he was the more radical, progressive leftist. We're going to do civil rights and wars, and so forth. And he won. That is, the party pays attention to that. And Hank, who is libertarianish, and he might not like, but he is. Okay,
well, I disagree with that statement altogether. Hank's a statist. If I've ever met a statist, Hank's a statist.
I've
had enough debates.
Hank has strong libertarian tendencies to the point that he supported your campaign.
Because it wasn't Rob Woodall.
I don't think it's just for that.
I'll tell you right now,
Hank
man.
believes in small government. He might be he might be misguided in some ways, and like Lincoln, way too much.
I had a debate just last night. All right, and this is what I'm getting at, is when we start talking about freeing people, liberty, right? And this whole mess, and I think it's part of the same thread. This thread is really pretty popular, you guys, you're fine with having dope smokers and dope dealers, next to you and things like that. And I'm like, hey man, we fundamentally disagree about this, because I think for the most part, when you look at America now on this very small subject, right, is you've got a whole bunch of physicians out there who are prescribing America to death. We are absolutely overpilled. So the fact that, who are doctors trained by, right? And that was his statement. Like, those people are trained to give out prescriptions in a safe type manner, right? Well, here's the thing: is those people are trained and licensed by the government, right? Versus other people out here who are more homeopathic, and and I'm not saying it will all be homeopathic. Some's going to be recreational, but let's face it, right now, between people who have prescriptions, who use them recreationally without being the people who are being prescribed to, right? It's the same damn thing. I got drug dealers who are licensed by the state, and I got non-licensed drug dealers over here that sometimes, and a lot of times, are doing better things for their community. And that's the difference. Is this guy, he wants to be able to use force and have the government with guns through the local police come out, put a gun in your face, and take your stuff and take you to jail.
I'm not saying he's a perfect.
I'm not saying I'm saying he's a statist
in line with liberty, but the Republican Party.
Yeah.
What people, the main message, okay, even though there are many people in the Republican Party who are complete authoritarians, but the main message, the Libertarian Party helps that main message.
Yeah.
For the most part, the Libertarian Party helps that main message of smaller governments.
The people in the liberty movement are what make the Republicans even relevant. That's my contention. That's the liberty people within the Libertarian Party, within the Democratic Party, within the Republican Party are what make these people relevant. Otherwise, they're all just damn statists.
Statists are relevant too, though, sometimes. And I think the reason the Republican Party works a little better is it's not just the liberty people. I'm sorry to say. It is also what the Republican Party's stands for. Now, a non-entity.
We gotta let our guests talk here.
I'll finish real fast. A non-entity doesn't stand for something in itself, but most people, just like we know the definition of words, would define the Libertarian Party as, people who believe more in the free market and so forth. That is why it is a vehicle for people. Like Ron Paul just didn't randomly choose one of the parties. He was like, well, this party says they believe in this. I know they don't believe in it, but I might as well take it. So
I tried that for a while. Go ahead.
Debra has
what are your thoughts, Ari?
I love you, Banks. I do. But when you say the Republican parties, I never became a part of the party because I saw so much hypocrisy in it. You have your leader saying one thing and then acting another. However, if someone steps out of line, they automatically start throwing these core values in their face. And so when I came into the party, I still watched and listened, and it was hard for me to find my place in there because of the hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in hypocrisy. If I tell you to kiss my ass somewhere in a bar, I'll tell you to kiss my ass in the church.
Right.
Because you can't be effective if you're hypocritical. I don't believe. Not truly effective.
You can't be effective for liberty.
Right.
You can't.
Yeah. And so what I kept finding in the Republican Party was, and my husband and I talk about this, Republicans are conditional and situational. And that's where I have an issue.
Tell me what you mean by it.
They love their core values until it doesn't fit their situation. And then they will do one of two things. They will try to explain it away, or they will try to reinterpret it. And they'll do the same thing with the Constitution. Because most people, and this is what will make the public hate me, most people are ignorant when it comes to the Constitution. And the other group, and I'm not talking about Democrats, I'm talking about just the other group that understands that the public is lacking knowledge because voters have become lazy. They will interpret the Constitution to this other group to fit their situation or their circumstance. And this group over here is just like a hungry bunch of swine. They'll eat it up because they have nothing else.
Yeah.
And so now.
Well, and the thing is that they've so invested.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be wrong. Like.
Yeah. They're afraid to be different.
The pride of. Mm-hmm. I'm emotionally invested, and that's the problem, right? Where we talk about all the time: the party, the candidate, the personality, mm-hmm. those things outside of principle. When you're invested in that, that pride is what kills, and that's what kills liberty. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really, really kills it. And I'm. It's such a breath of fresh air to hear people in the Republican Party, or at least within the movement, say that. I am disgusted on a daily basis by this, the typical MAGA crowd when we have these type of mm-hmm. discussions on, the hypocrisy on the Constitution, war, first and foremost. When people will sit there and quote to me that, hey, no, the Supreme Court said that this is constitutional. They ruled.
Yeah.
I have a real problem with that, obviously, because you can't change the Constitution. It's a delegated power through Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of mm-hmm. the Constitution. That power belongs... 11. I'm sorry. That power of war belongs to the Congress. What does it take to change the Constitution in a delegated authority? An Article 5 convention, right? Mm-hmm. You either have to have an amendment. Do we have an amendment for that? We sure damn don't. Republicans all the time, especially when it's a Republican who's in office, mm-hmm. will say, well, he has the War Powers Act. Sorry, guys. It's completely and utter nonsense. The other thing, just recently with Donald Trump, is this whole banning of bump stocks. The mental yoga and gymnastics that I see out of the Republican Party when it comes to the banning of bump stocks. Basically, the ATF came out under his direction, because who's really the head of the ATF? The executive, right? The executive is. And when he says through definition that this thing is now, is capable of, burst type fire, and that is what makes it an automatic weapon. And now, it's, now we can ban this through executive order, basically, or the ATF changes the definition and now it falls under that. That crowd that just mm-hmm. sits there and just goes, well, it's an accessory. It's an accessory, and it's not part of this. Mm-hmm. It's not part of the Second Amendment.
Well, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, because they weren't even questioning the existence of the ATF in the first place. Like we say, who's the head of the ATF? Well, actually, per the Constitution, nobody, because it shouldn't exist, and there's no power that delegates it being able to exist. But so when things that aren't even written down on paper exist, and people just accept it and never question it, of course they're going to find a reason to justify it. They've already in their head, like, they're not all stupid. At least their subconscious can't ignore everything. Their subconscious knows that it's all in like a bed of lies. And so like your brain knows to go to another lie real fast, because if not, the whole thing crumbles and then you feel all empty inside.
And icky.
Yeah.
Right. You feel
and
like
it's funny, that analogy was great about how they're kind of the swine and they're taking in something that has no like caloric like value.
Yeah.
I see it made me think of the people who are involved politically, who are doing things because they know better, right?
Yeah.
I contend they know better. And they're taking things in so they can feel better. Mm-hmm. And what makes them feel better is that they can kind of have an up on all the ignorant swine. And I don't mean to put it in that way. And then they can sell that to them. And so it makes them feel, so they're compromising and their values and using something to make them feel better by selling it to the people who don't know any better. That's right. It's kind of disgusting.
It is. It's really disgusting. And, you know, it's even crazier. I mean, it's because of the power, and we've talked about this in the last show. You know, if we're grading these guys per their oath, everybody in Georgia is an F. Everybody at the federal level in Georgia is an F per their constitutional rating. And people fawn over these guys. Absolutely fawn. Barry Loudermilk, Jody Heiss, Rob Woodall, you name it, Scott, you know, the rest of these garbage Republicans that are out there, that people and the industry that's around getting people elected and keeping them in office. Oh, he's awesome. We love him. He does so much for our local community, blah, 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 blah.
And that's when I ask them, can you tell me exactly what they've done? And they literally will say that, and I've had them say this to me, well, I can't think right now. It's like, it doesn't matter. If you can make a statement to me that says they're great, they have done so much, then you should be able to rattle off to me why you think that.
Yeah.
Most of the time, to me, they say, well, he's a wonderful like person, a nice guy.
Yeah.
Like I met him and we had a great conversation.
To which my response is, hell is full of people who were wonderful people, but they didn't do what they needed to do to get to where they needed to get to, which is why they're
there. They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah, no, and that's right. I mean, that's the problem I have, is people are awestruck, right? Just because somebody winds up on CNN or MSNBC, like, I mean, most of the time,
those are the cues that people have been trained to react to.
Yeah. One of the things that I love to do to make sure that hierarchy is in the right place, not only in my own mind, but in the mind of the people who are in service to this country, is call them by their first name and stop with all the, you know, the pretense, you know, like
you know, what's worse is that we take all the presidents who used to be president and we call them president forever.
Ever. We do that with governors.
So when somebody calls you something forever, that's called a title. I'm pretty sure that in the Declaration of Independence, it specifically said that there will not be.
I think titles. It's actually in the Constitution.
In the Constitution,
I think it's like, I think it's towards the end of Article
one and the same.
One. Yeah, no,
I'm kidding, but
the mindset of the people, and I've watched this even during the convention.
The Republican convention that Banks went to, and
then the
yes, okay, and then Cobb County.
Assembly.
All right, let's go.
Yeah. They will walk through the door, and the number of people that will pull their phones out to take a selfie with them. I mean, it's like this.
And then they post it
everywhere.
Away.
And I'll never forget, you were there. As a matter of fact, you were standing to my left right behind when Casey Cagle came and they were campaigning. And they asked, were there any questions? Well, I raised my hand. Of course, he didn't call on me. Of course, Kemp wouldn't either. But I situated myself in the door frame that he had to exit to come out of the Cobb office. Mm-hmm. There's only one way out, the front door or the back door.
I've been there.
So I situated myself right there. Well, there was no way he could get past me. And he extended his hand, and I extended mine because I knew he couldn't walk away from me as long as I had a hold of his hand.
Yeah.
And he steps out, and the first thing he says to me is, Debra, would you like a picture? And I said, no, I don't do pictures with politicians. And he just, the blank stare, because his guy was standing there, and I said, no. I said, I got a question I want to ask you. And this is, of course, when he and Stacy were at each other. I said, I've got a question. You as a man, are you willing to go after her throat as if she was a man?
Yeah.
Because if you're not,
you're the wrong dude.
You don't need to be running.
Yeah.
To which his wife said, back to my left, "Ooh, I like this girl." I said, "No, you won't like me." And Banks is standing there, and I'm like, "I want you to turn because I want Banks' shot at you." But he didn't know what to do. The voters have given these guys their power,
reverence, yeah,
and they've given them this rock star neon light attitude, and a narcissist is going to feed off that, and they're going to suck it in, and they're going to use it, even against you if need be. And that's the problem with our politicians. I mean, right now in the 6th district, we have one running that ran before. Do I say her name?
Yeah,
Karen.
If you want to do it.
Karen ran, and she had. It was I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna support Trump, and we're gonna build that wall, and we're gonna appeal Obamacare, and da da da. I mean, just on and on and on. Everything she needed to say to get the vote. What happened? She got she became the candidate for the Republican Party. Everybody rallied around her, sent her up there, and what was the first thing she did? She gave Paul Ryan her brain.
Yeah. One of the worst speakers ever.
Well, that might actually be a way to make people see how House of Cards this whole thing is, because you kind of tell them how the actions that they're doing, all the compromises and the reverence, and then tell them the people that you're giving all this reverence to and compromising to and supporting, even if they take advantage of it all the time, these same people are doing the same thing you're doing to people higher up.
Yeah, and now she's running again, saying that she's going to go support Trump. And my statement was, you had your shot. Mm-hmm. And you asked Ryan Paul how to vote, and he said, vote no. And you did. So you gave your loyalty to Paul Ryan.
Yeah.
You didn't have it for Georgia.
No.
So why do we send you back up there to slap us in the face again?
Yeah, I mean, I think she ended up with a high 40% after a term. And that's the thing is, and now she's going to try to go back at it again. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you right now, the local party chairs in the Republican Party, my local party chair, Patrick Bell, if you're listening to this whole thread this week, I invited him to come on the show. Extremely civil. Said, hey, you got an open seat anytime you want to come in. And he said, no, I my opinion's out there for everybody. I said, yeah, but having an opinion and stating an opinion is different than stating an opinion and then defending while debating that opinion.
Why wouldn't you, if you're confident in your idea, sorry, I'm losing my voice. If you're confident in your ideas, why wouldn't, and your goal, like you're in a party whose goal is to win, right? Mm-hmm. To some degree. Why wouldn't you want to defend your ideas?
Because they don't believe in them.
I love defending my ideas because I think I'm right. I could be wrong about everything.
Here's the thing is because their actions don't match their ideas.
Yeah.
And Patrick Bell, he is one of the worst when it comes to this kind of stuff. Patrick Bell took over the Republican Party here.
You haven't been in the Republican Party that long.
Yeah, no, right here. I mean, while I was running, and it was right before we had the debate with Rob. And I'll tell you right now, the home cooking, from the party to sit here and say that, this guy who's got a 60-something% maybe, at the federal level is still the guy, right? I mean, the morning I woke up after the election, I had a conversation with Patrick Bell. He said, well, you're gonna come out and endorse and support Rob Woodall now. And I said, Patrick, did you just miss my entire campaign? Did you fall asleep? Did you have an Ambien? What's going through your head right now? Hell no. I didn't run a campaign against a guy that I think is probably, I'd say one of the worst Republicans in Georgia. He was really kind of just DNC light, basically, blue dog Democrat.
Yeah.
I didn't run this campaign.
I thought you meant D and C. Like, I'll give him a D. I'll give him a C.
No, he's an F. He's a solid F, man. And things like that. And the thing is, as soon as I said that, quiet, like lights out. And that's the thing is from these guys like this, it's an unwitting admission that power and the ends will justify the means. And that's why he will never, ever come in here and sit in that seat, because his actions in terms of what he's done, what the Republican Party has done. They don't match what they're saying they're all about. And I'll tell you right now, I am reveling in the idea of crushing this party now from the outside, because I'll tell you right now, I tried from the inside, guys. I came in, I said, hey man, here's your guy. Here's your combat vet who grew up as a Republican here in Gwinnett County, and I'm here to play some ball and bring us back to what I think is the Constitution and principle. And they flat out spit in our face and rejected that notion. Think about that.
Well,
just
not all of them. There's 30% who.
But the party did. The party,
for the most part.
So who from leadership in the party? Who from leadership?
Kelly Warren, who was on the podcast.
Yeah, but
last Saturday.
But she wasn't the GOP chair at the time.
No, but she was in a leadership position.
Yeah,
and there were people in leadership, even in the Gwinnett Party, where the chairman was the absolute worst. I have hope that maybe Patrick Bell will come on the show, and this is why. If they
always the optimist.
I know, right?
Well, like I really don't care about parties. And I'm glad you said you wanted to defeat the party, this non-entity that doesn't care, and not the people. And you would never say the people, I know. But in the way, like, the parties don't even matter. I don't want even to defeat the parties. Like, I just want to ignore the parties and just focus on the people. And I think that, like, I think everybody has good in them and all that kind of stuff. That might be utopian, but even for Patrick, and I hope he doesn't mind me exposing this, but we had the debate, the only debate that Rob showed up to, because he's a coward, and there were rules that were sent to us in advance. They were pretty fair about there was going to be a quote unquote neutral moderator.
Yeah.
And that there
Julianne Thompson showed up.
A certain number of questions. Each person will get the same question, opening and closing and so forth. And the debate starts. Shane's up there. He's not in control and being able to talk to people anymore. He's just up there next to Rob. And the debate starts, and the questions don't get asked in the way the rules set, which was you get a certain amount of time to respond.
Rebuttal.
And you mentioned. And it goes on. And Patrick Bell is up there on the right, and I'm texting him, and I say, hey, what's going on? 5 minutes go by. It happens 2 or 3 times. I text more. And finally, I go up there, which means everybody kind of sees me go up there.
That's what I love about that.
Because he's on the
like,
on the side of the stage, and he texted back, this isn't perfect or something like that. Something kind of acknowledging the problem. And I said, is it going to be fixed? And he says, yes. 15 minutes go by. It happens at least 4 or 5 more times. So I go up there and I say, Patrick, like, I'm going to have to tell Shane to, like, stop if it's not fixed, because things aren't right here. And he did walk up, which was what I was waiting for whatever, the 20, 30 minutes of the whole ordeal, and go to Julianne Thompson and say, hey, apply the rules correctly. Maybe she misunderstood. Who knows? I'm not going to say what's in people's minds. And he fixed it. And then every other question after that got a proper rebuttal for the appropriate amount of time and so forth, instead of making up rules on their own, which most people don't even know the rules. But even when they know the rules, are scared to kind of apply them. Yeah. And I would hope that Patrick feels better that I gave him, I'm nice like that, opportunity to make things right. And I say that jokingly, but I think everybody wants to feel better, even if they don't recognize it. I hope he slept a little bit better that night. And I thanked him after that. And I would think that, like, if I'm doing something wrong, I want somebody to say, hey, here's the opportunity to apologize or make things right or something like that. So
I just think they won't do it. They won't make a change until they're caught and called on it. Period. Because if he would have had the level of integrity that I hold people to and expect in the party, period. When you're over something like that, you put aside your party and your biases, and you run it. Should. That's my utopia. Should run it fairly to give a true representation to the people, for them to decide. What it tells me when and it happens at every level.
Yeah.
I mean, just every level, and every meeting I've ever been into, except with the GRA. Alex smacks it down. But when I'm sitting in the audience and I'm seeing this playing out, it tells me that they think I'm ignorant, and that pisses me off.
Yeah.
It's like, don't play this game. We had it at the District 11 convention. When I won the vice chair, I was like, okay, what does this group do? They seem to be just another one of those entities that are useless. Every meeting from the very first one, we accomplished 0.
Hey, I accomplished quite a bit, okay?
Well,
I stopped things from happening, wasted everybody's time.
Yeah, that's what they would say. No, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. District 11 never accomplished anything as a group. I mean, they'll say, oh, well, we had a fundraiser. Well, hell, I keep beating this thing. Hell, it's like, I guess that's part of being a Southern Baptist preacher's daughter.
So for those who can't see the video, who just listen to audio, this is when Debra's face gets angry. She smashes the table.
They, anybody can have a fundraiser. Big deal. Every entity does. What have they accomplished for the party or for the principles that they say we have?
Oh, I know.
Every meeting.
They gave money to politicians who vote against the same things that they advocate for at their meetings.
And every meeting was an argument. Every meeting was a battle. Mm-hmm. And it just, and it was all inner. Yeah. Nothing from the outside was ever what we argued about or came up with a solution or a resolution against. I mean, oh my God, when we were wanting to do the resolution against John Watson, you would have thought that we had asked them for their firstborn.
Yeah.
And I finally, I think close to the last one, I said, I am done.
I kind of remember this time period on Facebook. I was like, wow, this is getting pretty heated over there.
It was towards the end of the meeting. Yeah. It wasn't like it was this thought out process. Well, it was thought out in your head, I'm sure, but it was.
No, it was.
It was a shock to everybody. She was like, this is like the final straw.
Yeah, because Scott Johnson made a smart remark, and I said, and I pointed to them. I didn't care. I said, that is the reason I won't be back.
Yeah.
And what did Scott say again?
Scott said, well, bye. And so I waited till it was over with, and what was so funny was he was demanding a public apology from Jack Staber.
Yeah.
I mean, demanding
I talked to Jack after that.
Yeah, doing the whole, like a preacher going, he was just pacing, hands everywhere. So when he made that remark, I thought, shit list. Well, after it was over with, I noticed he was hanging around, and he walks up to me and he says, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, we've got nothing to talk about. And he says, well, I was out of line. I just want to apologize for what I said. I said, really? You called Jack a coward because he wouldn't apologize publicly. So you act out publicly, you want to apologize privately. That Scott Johnson is a coward.
Wow.
And I turned around and I made my way through him in the doorway. That's the hypocrisy that I can't stand. In people, where I don't care where they are. But that's the problem with the Republican Party. And then he turns around and runs for the state GOP. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Because I've seen him in so many places. And I watch those people who are wanting those positions. And there are very few that I would ever back for any of that. That is not only in the GOP, that is in your higher levels, state, national organizations as well. Just saw it in the last convention.
Leadership positions in general, right? I mean,
it's filled with people who, they will say, you will hear, well, they got a big ego. No, they don't. They don't have a big ego. They don't have self-esteem. They have nothing. And they're grasping. And where's the best place for them to grasp? In a political volunteer organization. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it's volunteer, and most people don't want to deal with it.
That's right.
Well, and where the quality, the average quality, there's wonderful people there, minority, but the quality of people is lesser because most people think it's a disgusting environment and don't want to be there.
Well, like, how many people have you seen constantly
who have gotten involved in the party and then left
in the hypocrisy
quite abruptly afterwards because they just said it's not enjoyable.
Yeah. You think I'm going to sit around and listen to groups led by people like Patrick Bell? You're out of your mind.
But it's so fun to
that's
holes in there.
But yeah, no.
That's why I love watching him in a meeting.
I actually don't think it's that fun. But
I sit
you
behind.
have to,
I find where Banks is sitting, and I sit behind him so I can watch it.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to know a little bit of Debra's background so that people understand why this is more interesting than it.
You want to get into it this early in the show?
Are we still early?
We're an hour.
No, I actually think it's good that we did like talking before.
Yeah, I know.
So that people didn't have a bias of she's actually a former politician.
No, I wasn't a politician. That's the problem.
Just stateswoman. Yeah, we're at about an hour 15. So
okay. Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be.
It's a podcast. We got all the time in the world.
It doesn't have to be extensive, but I find it interesting.
I'm giving you a hard time.
What do you find interesting?
So. My first appearance of you was being in a Kennesaw State City Council meeting and just assuming that you were...
What year is this?
It's 2014, maybe.
Okay.
You were at the meeting?
I came to a lot of those meetings. I was the guy that had the gun on the hip.
You see, I didn't pay attention. I just did my job.
He had longer hair.
I didn't talk at those ever.
Oh, God, I wish you would have.
Looks like a 12-year-old carrying a gun on his hip.
Yeah, I became friends with all the cops there because they were intrigued.
What are you doing here, buddy?
You were the one they stopped at the door that day.
They stopped me a few times in the beginning.
Yeah, because Westenberger came up to the DS and his...
Do they allow guns?
Yeah, so they don't have screening. So the law in Georgia, for those who don't know, is guns are allowed in public buildings except for courtrooms and something else, unless there is screening at all public entrances. Mm-hmm. So unless there is a law enforcement officer and a metal detector, then you're allowed to go with guns. Which is why they have much more screening at the Capitol now than they used to.
Yeah.
Just because they're that much more corrupt.
Yeah, I mean, they've got things to hide.
They're literally
we were
scared.
given a warning that there was a man in the audience with a gun.
There's a man exercising his right to...
And I was like, really? Where?
I don't open carry anymore, but I had just gotten my license. I used to open carry without a license, which was too risky. And so I just thought you were a typical politician.
So
sorry.
So tell us. I mean, let's. What is the background?
So she was a city council member in the city of Kennesaw, Georgia, which is a pretty cool.
Oh, it's a great little town.
Used to be.
That's still a cool little town to go to.
I think Debra has
that's
minus the government.
Oh, the government is the worst part of it.
Most towns.
Yeah.
And so it's really my first time that I consistently went to a city council. That's why I didn't talk at the Marietta ones. I'm much more talkative. You should come with someday. They are, boy, they're.
I want to go. I'll come.
That'd be fun.
I mean, I'll go to yours. You can come to mine.
It is amazing because they have, like, every time you go, there's something that you should be speaking out against. And
we need to get our field
there's
mic.
only the people there that advocate for the government thing. So it's like this one person who wants to stop this woman from being able to do something in her garden. And there'll be a lobbyist and like 10 other people who are like, yeah, we need to stop her. And they all just go along with it. And so if you're like the only voice of opposition, like 3 people could just waste tons of their time. And their time is not that valuable. So, so I watched these meetings go on. And when I started coming, there was this whole scandal about the city manager. Yeah. And that going on. And Debra was the only one. There was one other lady who's kind of the chiropractor lady. I kind of like her a little bit.
You're only liking what she is saying because she does the complete opposite.
It's very possible.
No, it's not possible. She and I were very good friends before I ran for mayor.
So
interesting. So
all right. So city councilwoman in Kennesaw, and then what is the trajectory after this?
Well, this is I don't want to put words in Debra's mouth, so I kind of want to know why you got into government in a non-party position, because you don't run as a Republican or a Democrat to be in city council, right?
Right, not there.
And why you got out of that?
I decided to run because the council at the time was being filled with Legacy Park people. Oh, they're going to love this podcast since I call their names out. But the mayor at the time, Mark Matthews, his friends were filling. And the position that I ran for was an appointed. The guy sitting in it was appointed because the gentleman in it passed away.
Okay.
And he was out there. But everything, like he was in real estate and all this. So all the votes dealing with development and everything, mm-hmm. he could benefit from. Nothing that represented the people was being done at all. The budget was skyrocketing. The people running were getting on there because they wanted the pensions. Because the day that an elected representative in the city of Kennesaw sits there behind in that seat, they're automatically 100% vested. The employees have to wait 10 years before they're vested.
Wow.
And
they finally got rid of that, right? After some scandal.
I pushed it. No, that was what I ran on. I ran on that, getting rid of the pensions for the elected officials. The public loved me. Of course, the elected hated me, which was fine. I don't care because I believe this in Washington as well. They shouldn't have pensions. Let them invest in 401ks. Because we should not keep paying anyone that we can no longer contact and fight for our rights as
Agreed.
A citizen.
And it's a public decision that's not like, if a CEO wants to decide what he gives to employees,
right?
That's his money to decide what it is. But how could, like, I don't agree to give somebody money forever.
Here's the damn difference. Here's the difference, right? As a CEO of a privately held mm-hmm. company, if they make poor decisions, guess who's on the hook for those pensions? The company. Not the taxpayer.
Not the taxpayer.
Right?
It's even worse than that, because most of these pension things are not even on a reasonable standard, right?
Oh, no.
It's far beyond. So the teachers, and I don't hate teachers, but I hate how their pension system works in Georgia. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You literally have, so you've got, they give a certain percentage per month or whatever to their pension. Then the state matches it forever. Which is a first problem, because we're paying them, like, teachers actually are not that underpaid if you mm-hmm. calculate all their benefits. But not only that, so they're not only matched for the rest of their life after they're vested. Since their pension fund doesn't always go well, so they lose money sometimes, mm-hmm. they're at, I think, like 70 or 80% fund right now, meaning that that there's 20% missing out of mm-hmm. their, I think it's like $10 billion thing. We just dump lump sums of money in there sometimes.
Right.
So in 2018, we dumped $270 million in there, just like that,
right?
Which is never even calculated in any of the calculations of it's being matched and so forth. It's just a lump sum,
right?
And I'm sure there's details to many pensions, especially the congressional one, that are even worse.
Oh, absolutely.
With all these things that are just money forever for no work. Mm-hmm. If you call government work. Well, like, at least there's a difference between this government work where I guess they do some things, and just no work, like zero, like just nothing. I'm being generous. Yeah.
But I mean, that's just it. Okay, I sit in that seat, and the first day I'm 100% vested.
Did they let you opt out? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, no. When I went in, they were like, "Well," I was like, "I don't want it." Well, you can't do that. Yeah. I was like, "What?" Yes, I can. I can tell you no. He says, no, because this is the way I said, okay, fine, this is what we're going to do then. I want to sign everything of mine over to the Southern Museum. He was like, what? Just put the Southern Museum on it. They're my benefactor. They can have it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to check to see if you can do that. I said, well, I'll tell you what. I'll get my attorney, and he will tell you that I can do that. I've already covered this.
Yeah.
Well, that blew their mind. So that's when I started pushing for the vote, and I got enough votes. Now, Chris voted with us only because she hated, at the time, Mark Matthews and Tim Killingsworth more than she hated me. Now she hates me. Because...
Well, the broken clock, right? A few times. Yeah. Because, I mean, I would agree with her about Mark Matthews.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I'm just saying at the time.
I understand.
But a lot of what the public is not aware of is a lot of what was going down was manipulated, not by Mark, but by Chris telling the public. And you don't know that until you get in there. And so I started seeing a lot of this on the backside of it, mm-hmm. and started calling her on it. And because she had this idea she could control me, not realizing that my daddy couldn't even control me. And she was far too weak. That, no, I had a brain of my own. And when I went into that job, it was not about me. It never was about me. As a matter of fact, I waited till the last 3 minutes to even go in there. And it was because I was getting phone calls from people going, you got to do this, you can't get this guy back in there. And there was actually someone waiting down there that said, if you come, I will pay your fee. I was like, no, if I'm going to do this, I'll pay my own fee. So I went in it to look at our budget and see where we could really make it beneficial for the taxpayers. I mean, because the museum and the
parking deck and...
Well, not the parking deck. It's the museum and the, the flower place up on Pine Mountain Road. I mean, they were just draining our, Smith Gilbert Gardens.
Oh, okay.
They were draining our budget like crazy. And we were pouring it into, and we were having to borrow $4 million to meet budget. And then they would take and, pray that they were going to get enough business taxes to pay. And that's been every year. I mean, this has been going, I was like,
that's
okay.
Most governments, I guess.
But that's no excuse.
Oh, no, it's not. It's not. But that's literally like every government situation that I've seen that seems like it's the same thing.
But that's because, and that's what has created big government. Number one, top heavy. So top heavy.
Administration. Everything.
Top heavy. And then you look at the pensions. I mean, the pensions bankrupted Detroit. Mm-hmm. So, hello, are we not learning a lesson here?
Well, I mean, that's my home state.
It only works as long as it's as it's increasing. As soon as there's a problem, a little bit less taxes.
Right.
If you're always increasing and there's a decrease in money that comes in at some point. Yeah.
But if you look at the number of people who had reached that level where they could all retire, it would shut Kennesaw down.
Yeah.
It would shut them down.
Unfunded liability is what that is.
Yeah.
And
it seems like it would be so easy math to be like, okay.
Well, it sure is.
It is easy math.
But the problem is, if these many people spend this many years here.
And you hit the nail on the head, is the entire system is, first and foremost, spend.
Yeah.
Spend before we have the revenue to pay for it.
Well, it's what Dave Smith says. Stop thinking that these people... besides Debra, are all saints. Like they're not even necessarily evil. They're normal people who have desires for nice cars or just to feed their
public
families
spaces.
or just more and have ambitions and so forth.
Ambitions with your money.
If they work in government, they also want as much as they can get. And if they're willing to, which seems like they're very willing to forget right and wrong, then why wouldn't they push for as much as they can get? And if as much as they can get comes at the cost of, hey, we have to borrow a bunch of money and leverage ourselves to dangerous fashions, it's not dangerous for them.
Right.
You ready for the bow on this whole thing?
It's actually advantageous for them to get people used to leveraging higher, because if they're not able to leverage higher in the future when they're on that pension, then they might lose that pension.
These same people and these same people who are making these budget decisions or lack of budget decisions are the same people who are not taught history and they are not taught economics.
They wouldn't need to know history or economics if they would focus on right and wrong, because everybody knows that stealing from people, okay, and it's not a far-fetched to understand, okay, if I put this person at risk of debt, because we can all internally understand what debt feels like it doesn't feel good for anybody.
Right.
Okay?
But it doesn't.
They don't need to know math or history. They need to know basic right and wrong.
But it doesn't feel as bad as it should either. And that's my contention is debt for people who are trained and understand economics, understand exactly how terrible and crippling and oppressive and enslaving it is. And that's the problem.
They might understand it better, but I think in the same way that anybody understands a gun pointed in their face, debt is crippling for anybody. I think they understand
it worse because it's not their debt.
There you go.
That's the
problem.
They
would rather you be in debt than them be in debt.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with that.
And the thing is if it's not their debt...
but that's why I'm saying it's not even the understanding of it. It means that the only thing they're ignoring is not actually that, it's the right and wrong.
Which is even...
It's just the right and wrong.
Which is even more duplicitous, right? Because when I say it's not their debt, a lot of people in politics are actually pretty well-off people, and it's not because they. Here's the thing: is especially at the state level, if you're involved in state level politics, a lot of times you've probably made some money because let's face it, the first 4 months you're not making money most people are not making money in their business at the rate that they could make money. They're taking a bit of a pay cut, right?
For most people, yeah.
So let's just say most of them are somewhat financially independent. They probably really understand, especially within their family and their household, that debt's a terrible thing, and most of them probably don't carry personal debt. That's the duplicitous, most terrible thing about this entire thing is when they start spending and indebting other people. They know that this is an awful, terrible thing, and they continue to do it anyway.
That's what I'm saying. They know better.
But think about this. Like a Monopoly game. Mm-hmm. The money's never in their hands. They don't see the money. It's just numbers on a page. It's so easy to disassociate yourself from it affecting someone.
And you're going to walk away in a 2-year span or something.
And it's not even, you don't think
and it's
about
not even
it.
that because they have that. It's very easy, as you say. I agree. And they have this, I'm sure many of them also justify it by saying that they're doing good things.
Yeah.
Like they're doing good. And they get praises all the time. Half of city council meetings are giving each other like awards and recognition for doing
shooting sunshine up their ass.
It is.
I love
the first hour.
That's what they're doing.
The first hour of Marietta City Council meetings is them recognizing each other and then recognizing somebody from the community because those are their voters and the people who make sure they can get reelected. It is unbelievable.
I had Rob Woodall come in to help Ron Freeman, our sheriff, get an award, and you're just sitting there like. Everybody's like, oh, yay, Ron. He keeps our community safe. That guy, he's the same guy that called, said I was giving him gotcha questions for the red flags. Hey, man, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when they start passing red flags here? Gotcha question. Hey, man, you got mass surveillance going on here. Who did you talk to? Who on the other side of this issue did you have a sit down with and say, this is the danger of mass surveillance? Mm-hmm. Where are you getting that money from? Like that guy, you got Rob Woodall, who's a F all the way to the bank, and now that he's not, seeking office again, he's gotten even worse. Giving congratulations to a sheriff in a quote unquote really red, county over here in Forsyth County, sitting there going, "Congratulations, you're a great sheriff. You're doing everything that we're giving you guys money for from the federal level to violate the rights of the people down here at your local level."
Yeah.
That's government.
It's quite amazing. And if you recognize that even the people on your own side, not our side, but the people look at them, he's
a Republican.
That's my Republican congressman.
As long as you got an R beside their name.
My Republican sheriff and so forth. Even your own people are congratulating each other between each other. And then you just got these other parties, and the whole system is actually just congratulating themselves.
Who was it? Was it Rob Schneider? Do you guys know who Rob Schneider is?
Yeah.
Did you see what he said this past week around?
No, I didn't.
He said something to the effect, 134.
I have a feeling there's going to be...
Something to the effect of, hey, I think Republicans at this point could put an R next to a piece of shit and people would still vote for it.
And he's right.
He's spot on. That's why it's funny.
I think it's happened
right.
Oh,
quite a bit.
Man, yeah.
And again...
Didn't somebody's dead dog or something get elected somewhere because it ran as an R, right?
R, yeah. But Republicans, and this is what I love about the GRA, we're not afraid to vet our own.
To some degree.
And vet, but at least we're vetting and we're finding out information. The party doesn't even do that.
No.
They take, they push, they back, they endorse, they buy all this stuff for whomever is left standing.
Yep.
Whether that person needed to be the one left standing or not.
Yeah.
See, I don't, everybody says, well, everybody has the right to run. Of course they have the right to run. But I have a right to needle them and figure out which one of those 5 or 6 needs to be the one running.
Or none of them.
Yeah. And go out and find the one and talk them into it eventually.
They don't think it's the purpose of the party to do that, which I don't think you even need to have it put on paper. If you stand for something, why would you want to harm that thing?
Right.
Like it's basic logic. This is, I'm in the Republican Party because I care about the principles of the Republican Party. This candidate keeps on violating the principles of the Republican Party. I should not support that candidate.
Ever. Especially should never give him my vote.
But how many times do they take those core values, they keep calling them, and compare them. It's just like a business plan. If you had a business and you didn't have a business plan, your business is going to fail because you have no roadmap.
Yeah.
Our core beliefs are kind of like that. They're our business plan. They're our roadmap.
But
should be. And we've got all these people over here that
have you ever
doesn't match.
Have you ever like made a speech like using that analogy? Because I think it's great.
Not in a large group, but now at the national convention.
I kind of want to use it. I'm
a month ago.
I'm not on the 11th district
Failed
committee
plan.
anymore.
Oh no,
you plan to fail.
Unfortunately, but I think that's it's like, hey, there's a goal, right? And then kind of direct them to the direction. It's like a business. The business is the principles. If not, we're doing all this for nothing. I personally don't like doing things for nothing.
Well,
but they're filled with that. They do busy work. I hate busy work. It's like giving kids coloring pages in school. That's what the Republican Party is doing. They're giving everybody a color page. We're getting it colored. We're turning it in, and then we're getting a grade.
And here's the thing is,
but that would be okay if there were no consequences to that. But the problem is there are drastic consequences because there are some people who are not coloring. There are people like Brad Carver who, as much as I get along with him on a personal level now, he's not just coloring. He is protecting a certain interest in what he does in politics. Unfortunately, he's not coloring in the book. He's pushing the Republican Party towards ideas that he thinks are right, which I think are drastically wrong.
But we did stop that by stopping him from being able to run again, which, if you remember at the District 11, I stood up at the microphone and I kind of gave that speech. Why are we continuing to elect people who are not doing anything, and we reward them by putting them back in the same position? Mm-hmm. And then you go off and gripe about it. Do you not see that you're killing yourself? Do you not see what you're doing?
Because
that's what most politicians do.
You're nailing it. Because, and I'll tell you, for me, that's what drove me out of the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. I'm done. This I'm all about power. This ends justifies the means. And that's what they unwittingly admit when they do all this kind of stuff, is we just want power. I don't care if our Republican is terrible. He's, quote unquote, better than the Democrat. Maybe on some things, but
he's better because if he's elected, then he's in power. Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's what I'm getting at.
And we can control him.
Well, and that's the lie, right? Is
right.
There's no control.
There's no control.
Well, some of them think there's control because they're on the same side. I don't think Brad Carver disagrees with what Barry Loudermilk does for the most part. Like, in honest fashion, I think they might have about the same voting record.
But yeah,
so why would he care? Even though Barry is just as bad as any of the other congressmen?
They want power to control you. That's the thing. It's not that we want power so that the Democrats can't wield it and do terrible, awful things. It's we want power so we can do what we have to do through the force of government. That's what drove me out. Sick of it. You guys are going to sit there, and not you guys, because I know you guys are exceptions to the rule in the Republican Party, but when they sit there and say, you got to go straight ticket, you got to vote for the Republicans because we can't have a Democrat in office, man, I don't understand the difference anymore. They want power. They mean to rule just as much as you want power, and you mean to rule, and you'll sacrifice every damn thing along the way in terms of principles to take power.
So
that's the problem.
With that said, why are you involved in the Republican Party? So the ways you're involved,
really anymore.
And I'll one up you. Would you like to come and join me over here in the Libertarian?
No. So I did not mean it in that way.
Because it'll be a warm welcome. I'd love. So I'm going to start recruiting. I haven't told people that.
That's fine.
I'm going to start recruiting because the sensation of being welcome into a party, I was not welcomed by anybody. Basically,
no, you were welcomed by many people.
A few people, not in leadership, but I'm telling you right now, I've got leadership reaching out. Guys running for the chair of the LP National Party. I don't care who it is. Hey, man, really, really appreciate it. Glad you're in the fight with us.
That must be a very nice feeling.
It's not only is it nice, but here's what I've noticed is this what we do in trying to create an audience, to create this push, this surge, to be the tip of the spear for a larger movement. As soon as you sit there and say, "Hey guys, I'm done with the infighting of this crowd over here. tired of spinning my wheels. And as soon as you go over here, what's funny is they're all like, man, it took you long enough, right? And now you got something. Now it's starting to get shared more and more and more. And that's what I'm starting to see is within the realm of, hey, man, this guy's actually, he's belonged over here for a long time, basically. And he's been trying to do some, interruption and spread liberty within these ranks and kind of, bring the Republicans back to some sanity. But hey, let's share everything that he's doing now that he's over here in the LP. Your message actually even gets further and further than it did in the past. Because
they have a vested interest in doing that. I also think most of them are doing it for the right reasons, but they have a vested interest. I think
the Republicans don't do that.
I think they're wrong about something, though. I don't think that you belong there for a long time. And here's why I say that.
It is an opinion, right? Well, it's an opinion.
What I say is my own opinion. What they say is their own opinion. I'm still going to argue what I think is correct. That's a given. But as much, the only thing that would make you belong there and should have been there before. I've lost my words. Sure. Is if you thought that was your calling and then you were in line with your own calling, which we're not always in line. And so I'm not interested in anybody who is advocating for somebody to take a certain strategy. I've been where I belong since I got involved in politics, and where I belong is the liberty movement. I never thought I belonged in the Republican Party.
Right.
I don't think I belong in the Libertarian Party, where I have been a member at certain times. You can't prove the timeline, people. And so where I belong has been in neither at any point. Where I've belonged and where I think everybody belongs, super utopian, optimistic view again, is supporting liberty and just not harming people like that. That's the thing. And I've already been there. And that's the only place I want to invite people to. And I can give my opinion on things that are useful. Like if I see somebody who I think is in line with liberty and they're doing things that are not useful, like compromising. I see a lot of liberty people who compromise all the freaking time. Yeah. Sometimes I don't agree with them completely, but there are tons of people who are not bad people who support a majority of peaceful actions, who compromise all the time. There are many state reps who for the most part are agreeing good policy and want to stay away from your life, who think that people should be able to smoke whatever they want to smoke, put things in their body, who violate that in public speaking all the time. So the only place I want to invite people is the liberty movement and peaceful action. And if somebody who has that mindset is doing something that I think is unproductive for their means, then I'll tell them. But I think the three of us are already where we belong, and that our strategies might change at times. My strategy has changed to some degree.
Sure.
I used to be the undercover person. That didn't last very long.
Now you have to wear a beard so people don't recognize you. Yeah, that's a pretty healthy beard, by the way.
Which is why I dye my hair brown.
But I'm happy that you found your calling, or that it has evolved in some way.
It's just a different path, right? It's the same path, and I think it's there was a critical point, right? And I had a decision to make, and I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I'm telling you. With what we're going to try to do in terms of taking over the LP right now through the Mises Caucus, the Libertarian Mises Caucus that's out there. Josh Smith is a guy that's running right now that I think has a tremendous chance. And I'm telling you, what's funny is, and I'd like to work with everybody who's out there, especially in the podcast space. Your Dave Smiths, your Tom Woods, your Jason Stapletons, your the guy that does Counter Krugman with Tom Woods. It's Bob Murphy. The guys down at the Mises Institute. Things that if we would take the crowds of just those podcasts in a fraction, I know Mark Cuban would be really like, hey, you can't, that's your market, you can't. But I'm telling you right now, if we can energize enough of those people, put somebody like Josh Smith in that chair over there and start to really see things, because listen, I'm not going to follow Nick Sarwark. I'm not going to follow people like, Bill Weld, who's now on the Republican ticket, and he's a huge hawk. And you've got Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson's just kind of a goofball. Like, I know plenty of people like him enough, and he was okay and everything. But in terms of being able,
he's definitely a goofball. But he also made, like, he used to be better. I think he made some very unprincipled.
I agree.
Decisions, which is what turned me away. I don't mind a goofball.
He's trying to go. He's trying to go center.
Yeah,
right?
A goofball might not be the best strategy, But I'll support a goofball who believes in liberty all day long.
But I'll tell you right now, like with this crowd that's getting reinvigorated again, right? I would love to do something with all of these guys in a compilation, and I've thought about sending out a message, and maybe this will be it. But let's say, hey, listen, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. These are our principles, and throwing something like that together to start recruiting people to really become something, new. And I mean, bring in the Ron Paul type, Republicans that are out there that are standing on, principle, that do believe that a constitutionally limited government is a step in the right direction. Yeah. And I don't know, like that's just where I'm at.
And I don't say this to placate. Like I'm very happy, and I've always like supported libertarians doing stuff, meaning myself sometimes.
You're also a bit of a masochist, right? I mean, so there's that, and I love you for it.
No, I'm not in the Republican Party because I actually don't enjoy being hated. It actually it hurts my little soul. Like I appreciate the people who support me, and that kind of lifts me up. But I like, it makes me honestly sad.
We have love for you over here.
It makes me honestly sad when somebody is like hateful at a convention. Every single time, it has never changed.
Yeah,
I cry sometimes. Every single time.
That doesn't bother me.
I'm really sensitive. So.
If somebody hates me, at least I know they're feeling. And as long as they're feeling, then there's an opportunity for us to be able to change their mind.
I don't think it's a bad thing, but like I'm happy. Like I think whatever the consequence of liberty going forward is a good thing. Okay. Yeah.
Wait till you're 57 and you just don't give a shit what people think about you. I feel like I've reached that age, and I have fought so hard that, I'm going to say what I want to say. I had my dad's Aunt Kate. She and I were just kind of drawn to each other. And she told me one time, she says, Deborah, do you want me to tell you why people die of cancer? I was like, yeah, can you please tell me that? She said, because they keep everything inside of them. If you've got something you got to say, get it out. And let me tell you, she lived till she was 99. She died on her birthday.
Not of cancer.
No, not of cancer. Absolutely not. But now this is a lady who, when my Uncle George went into the Korean War, she went over with him.
Yeah.
She was not only a labor and delivery girl, she broke down guns faster than he could and put them back together.
That's awesome.
I mean, I said, I want to grow up to be Aunt Kate. But she kept our mayor and our police chief, and they were scared to death of her. And they knew that if they pissed her off, she had a whole slew of people.
Yep.
They were going to take them out. And that's what we've got to get back to. We've got to understand, and this is where, and I don't know if it's, and I say my generation because my generation was so afraid of raising our children, that we wanted to be their friend. You can be their friend after they get married.
That's right.
But we stopped educating them on their power in government. And they started believing that the people elected had the power. Mm-hmm. Those people elected started believing they have the power. That's why right now it is very difficult for me to tell the difference between a Republican and a Democrat if you shut your eyes and just listen to both of them talk.
Okay. Well, and the thing is you listen to the same person on, during President Obama's 8 years, and the same person now today, right? Republicans' best friend is a Democrat in the White House because they get to sit there and they get to go, rah, rah, Republican this and limited government spending. And
that's why you can go on YouTube and look up Sean Hannity and clip after clip that have been beautifully montaged together of him saying one thing when it's Obama and one thing when it's Trump on the same subject.
I know.
Like it is wonderful, or it's awful that Obama is talking with or not talking with the Koreans. Like, why wouldn't he? It's just diplomacy and so forth. And then Trump does it. It's wonderful that it's incredible.
But now let me tell you, because I'm a Trump girl, but not for the reasons you think. I have said for years and years and years, after Reagan was out of office, after he did his terms, I kept saying, we've got to get a business person in there. Government is a business. But it is run It is run emotionally. Voters vote emotionally. They don't vote with intelligence at all. And that's why we are where we are. Now, I didn't, I don't know anybody running that doesn't have crap in their past. To be a politician, it seems like you have to. God.
Prerequisite.
Or to be a human being.
Yeah, I mean, they get past that point. I mean, when you've had 6 wives, not him, but we do have someone in office who, it's 7, but he don't count the annulment, and 3 bankruptcies.
Who are we talking about?
3 bankruptcies and fired from over 30-something jobs, let out of the military because he had a choice to go or
Who are we talking about?
Anyway, you will know who. Y'all got to do is go back to my Facebook page. Anyway.
Cool.
When we are electing morally and ethically bankrupt people, then you're going to get a morally and bankrupt government.
Yeah.
And that's where we are.
Yeah.
To elect someone that would have our respect is going to be impossible to ever find because they're not there anymore.
What does that say about the proper role of government?
Exactly.
Which is why we are the way we are. And that's what's so horrible about there only being a 2-party system and everybody feeling that they have to be one of the 2. There's not an alternative. Now, what I'm seeing people pulling away from both of them.
Yep.
And looking for an alternative, but there's
dying.
they're not an alternative out there. People don't want to. I mean, I've got friends who they'll say, "Are you a Republican?" I was like, "No, I'm not a Republican. Mm-hmm. I'm part of the Republican Party, but the Republicans no longer represent me."
Yeah, haven't for a long time.
Yeah, so will I vote Republican?
For some people, maybe.
For some,
maybe.
Some I have to leave blank. Well, that's a vote for the Democrat. No, it's not.
No.
I'm not giving either.
They didn't earn it either, right?
No.
That's the thing is they're not earning it. And that message when you leave a space blank says, we've got a total here of how many people who voted. And guess what? You
didn't get that.
You didn't get it, man. Sorry. That's a protest. That's not a vote for anybody else.
Right.
That's, full circle again.
But people want to see things, and before it could have been more protests. You could actually write none of the above. Most states had none of the above if you go back enough decades.
Yeah.
And apparently that was too much of an incentive for people to be like, I hate all these people. So, and when people can't see things, they're not tangible, and they give too much confidence in others. It's tangible for me. My own internal little world, when I go, and I went to a ballot once and I voted for nobody on the ballot. It was 4 or 5 elections in Cobb County. Internally, there was a little cheerleaders yeah, Banks, good job. But a lot of people need the external cheerleaders to tell them it means something.
When I wrote on the Kennesaw page week before last, I had people inbox me, who do we vote for? Who do we vote for? We don't, I was like, really? You don't have to vote for anyone. Do you understand when you go to that ballot box and you've only got one person for mayor and then they got write-in? You can write in or you can leave it blank. Mm-hmm. It's going to still accept your ballot. Well, then we just won't vote because we don't feel like we have anybody to vote for. No, you go vote. You go and make sure that they understand that your body went and voted. However, you didn't agree with anybody on that ballot. Yep. No one represented you.
At the very least, because and we've explained before why people in power are more scared than they potentially should be because of the unknown factor.
They're paranoid.
And they're kind of they know that there is a very big potential if it happens for rebellion because, we're more, right? So even if you don't beat them and even if it doesn't mean anything internally to you as it might for us because we're weird, it will have an effect.
Yeah.
Because people look at numbers.
Because people look at numbers. People who are extra paranoid because of how the system works look at numbers even more.
Yep.
And they will potentially, to whatever is your vote is worth, the percentage of your vote in proportion to everybody else, might pull back just 0.001%. Yep. And that is a good thing.
Except your elections board, when they post it on their website, they only count, and because it showed that, the mayor of Kennesaw got 100% of the vote. I'm like, time out. No, he didn't. So I ripped off an email to Janine Everly, who is the president or director of the Cobb Elections Board. And I said, there's no way he could have gotten 100%. your numbers are fake. And of course, there were some people on my Facebook page said, well, this is how it works. You don't understand how. I do know how it works. I've been in this long enough.
And I'm calling it out.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you don't understand. It's not how it works. It's how it's reported. This is fake news, fraudulent, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. But when you've got, well, she said, we only count the ones that are cast for him. Mm-hmm. Okay, what about the write-ins? What about, tell me how many ballots were cast, and then tell me how many votes were cast.
Yes.
I'd go further and say that they should count it in proportion to the registered voters.
Well, they did. So on their website, it shows like there's 60-something thousand in the city of Kennesaw. I was
there's that many now?
No, no. I was like, okay, your numbers are wrong. So she goes back, and so she sends me the sheet. There's just a little over 20,100 in the city limits of Kennesaw.
Who are registered?
Who are registered voters. Of that number, 1,520-something cast a ballot.
And of those 100, how many actually voted for him and didn't do it right?
1,300 and something.
So what's the percentage there? What is 1,300 and something out of 20,000?
20-something thousand.
That's
1/20th.
That's 5. That's 3%.
Yeah, but this is what
he's the mayor of a city, gets to spend
of Kennesaw
a budget of
Kennesaw.
what?
Yeah.
Is their budget 20 million or 25?
Oh yeah, it's
30 these days.
It's 27 million, something like that. Could be up there now.
He gets to spend and take all that money away from other people. Yeah. And maybe stop them from riding scooters and vaping and all that stuff.
Airbnb
with 3%. 3% of the vote.
But
that's
what's
insane.
even?
And that's for tons of elections.
This is what's more insane to me is after I posted this, and people read it, then I'm getting inboxes because they don't have the guts to go on there and call themselves a fool. Well, I didn't know that we didn't have to vote.
Mm-hmm. That we didn't what?
That they didn't have to vote for him just because he was the only one there.
Man, this is people increasing the authoritarianism of the state on their own.
Yeah,
it's automatic.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine these people are being honest because they know they don't have to vote, right? They know they don't have to walk into a voting place.
No. They didn't have to vote for him in order for their ballot to count.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. They didn't realize they could leave it alone.
People don't know, people are fear is of the unknown is pretty powerful.
It blows my mind that they don't know that.
That is crazy.
That's voting 101.
So
maybe.
So I see,
I
see government commercials sometimes. So if you're listening to Pandora or the radio, or with your driving, there's some billboards that say put your seatbelt on, and they make me so freaking angry because it's wasted money.
It's propaganda.
Who's also telling me what to do? I would be less angry, still angry, if they put on there, your vote counts even if you don't fill in all the things.
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty important thing to know.
They're not going to tell you
that. If not, it's just more incumbency protection.
Why would they tell you that?
Of course they.
They're not going to tell you that.
Speaking of propaganda,
let's go.
We've got a candidate running in the 6th district.
Who is it?
Marjorie Greene.
Marjorie Greene.
I mean, there are a lot of people like her. She seems to be the candidate that they're searching for, or
she's agreed to come on the show through the intermediary of Travis Cleavon.
Okay, I know who she is. Yeah.
So, I'm out there. Of course, I don't get to vote in the 6th, but I'm still watching it all anyway. And I'm watching her Facebook page, and then all of a sudden there comes a video up one day, and she's, in Washington D.C. and she's got this stack of papers, and it's got 20,000 signatures or some number up there. And it's a resolution to impeach Nancy Pelosi. And she's going to her door and she's going to hand it to her. And I'm sitting there going, what? She does understand how this works, right?
Right.
So I reshare it on Facebook. I said, this reminds me of the communist propaganda.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's nuts. So,
in what way?
Putting something out there I'm going to make this difference and I'm going to change this and I'm going in there and I'm going to tell her this. And knowing all the time it's bullshit because it takes an act of Congress. She can't go up there with, however many signatures and boot Nancy out. It was a show.
True, but yeah, it's
a show.
So before she decided to run for office, that's kind of what she did. That's why she has like 40,000 likes on her Facebook page. She was kind of this like excited activist that did things like that.
An activist makes things happen. That wasn't going to happen.
It wasn't, but it's like a cheerleading act. That bothers me less.
The problem is it's predicated on the fact that she already knows.
Well, I don't think she like. I watched the video, but I didn't like pay attention to the details. Like I have delivered like a bunch of petitions from people down to the Georgia State Capitol to say that they want constitutional carry.
But
it's in the same vein. And if some people believe that she was trying to impeach her with signatures, then that would be misleading. But
that's exactly the premise of the whole video. And to me, it's like don't showboat. So when Neil Warren had his cornball, she was there and she walked up to me and I'm so-and-so. I said, I know exactly who you are. And she, I would like your vote. I was like, first of all, I don't get to vote in the 6th district, but let me just explain something to you that's just eats at me. And I told her exactly how I felt about her propaganda. Mm-hmm. And I called it that.
What was her
the
response?
Video? Her response was, well, I did that a while back. Then why did you just post it? Why didn't you just leave it back there where it was?
It'd still be good to understand her intention a while back. Like that's still her.
It's to create a headline.
Did she explain her intention? I don't mind people creating headlines.
No, but this is what I'm saying, and I guess I have such a distorted view of voters. Voters are not smart.
No, they don't. They don't know the Constitution.
They don't, and to me, it's like don't try to fake me out. And that's the way I looked at it. She was, and it's that whole swine thing. You wouldn't believe the people who thought that was amazing and wonderful, and she was going to go up there and she was going to boot Nancy out.
Well, the fact that she's claiming to have a power that she doesn't have.
I don't know if she's claiming that. Like, I have to be fair.
Have you seen the video?
I've seen it. I didn't pay attention to the details. To me, it looked like any other action that actually a good activist group or something would do is bring the now tons of these groups use that in wrong ways. Yeah. But there are groups that is a better way than to go to the politician and say, hey, I want to be your friend and I'll be the intermediary between you and all my members. Saying, hey, here's all my members and here's what you have to do, which I wouldn't mind Nancy Pelosi getting impeached, is a better way to do politics. And I'd say a more moral way, because when you're being the arbiter between you and your members, you realize the compromises you're making. You tell your members, hey, like, lay off, we're going to make a deal here.
The problem occurs for me in this, where I've got a candidate who knows or should know either way, whether they're ignorant of their powers or they are even worse, they know they don't have this power and they say, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah. This is the power that I'm claiming to have to energize a vote. Mm-hmm. It's akin to every damn Democrat you see, like, oh, $15 minimum wage, we can do this. No, you can't.
Yeah, you
like,
can't.
It's claiming power you weren't delegated to sit there and rev up a base and get them excited and throw them, basically what amounts to red meat that, again, doesn't have any caloric value.
Right.
That's the problem. That's the problem with people like Miss Green. If you're going to sit there and say, I'm going to impeach Nancy Pelosi, well, first and foremost, as a candidate, you don't have that power. And secondly, she's the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
Right?
Good luck.
How are you even going to get that to a vote?
Right.
How are you going to get it to a vote? Listen, I would love nothing more than to see Nancy Pelosi tarred and feathered.
Yeah, exactly.
And
No, not tarred and feathered. We don't believe in that kind of stuff.
Well, maybe you don't.
You know what I mean? And to perpetuate that in this day and age under that moniker, man, that's another reason. Peace. I'm out. I'm done.
Okay, so I'm reading an article here, and I'm not just annoying for the sake of being annoying. I promise.
No, it's just your nature.
No, my nature is not to be annoying.
I'm kidding with you.
Okay, so the petition was first put out on We the People, which is that stupid website that the government says, what are your gripes, which if the thing you're fighting against is asking you to fight against, there's a problem there. But
right.
Do it through another venue. Don't then the government sets these arbitrary numbers. Oh, if you get to 100,000, we'll listen to you, as if 99,000 people don't matter. But whatever. And it looks like it's just like she cites the on the what I can see of the petition that's quoted in this article on CNS News. She cites the Constitution, Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2. Each House member may determine the rules and proceedings and so forth, and what is bad behavior with the concurrence of 2/3 of the House. Article 2, Section 4, the President, Vice President, and all...
That's the executive impeachment process.
Yeah, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office, all civil officers, on impeachment and conviction of treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. And then Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6, the Senate shall have the sole powers, and that explains that.
For trying, right.
So the fact that she quotes that in the petition, as this article says, makes me think that she wasn't necessarily trying to mislead people.
This is her trying to escape. This is her trying to...
No, this was part of her, like, before it happened. This is what she wrote, so I don't think she's trying to mislead people.
I categorically disagree.
How else would you, like, pushing for impeachment, and here's the introduction to to the petition, if it will... Nancy Pelosi is a traitor to the American people. The Constitution defines treason against the United States, adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. Illegal aliens are enemies that invade our country with drugs, human trafficking, and terrorists, causing death and crime to American citizens. Nancy Pelosi adheres to these enemies by voting for and providing them aid and comfort through sanctuary policies funded by U.S. Citizen taxpayers, and refuses to protect American people by refusing to fund our border wall, leaving our borders open and unsafe. Pelosi refused to meet with angel families, caused the government shutdown, and then traveled on U.S. dollars to Hawaii and Puerto Rico, while 800,000 Fed workers don't get paid, and uninvited Trump to the State of the Union, impeach Pelosi for treason. I don't think she's making the claim that she can do it. I do not agree with that whole statement, by the way.
Yeah, because some of that just sounds like,
yeah, yes.
It's,
and it is not like, if I don't think she necessarily has a tangent on all the principles that I would find important. And I don't know enough about her, but a lot of these give many indications that the fact that she's all worried about 800 federal workers who are not in the Constitution while she's quoting the Constitution is pretty, like, telling.
It's selective.
So, yeah.
But it's that kind of stuff that just drives me crazy.
Yep.
With candidates.
I do think we need to get in touch with Travis, who is her campaign manager. Okay. Because he said she agreed to come on the show, and then we got busy, as we usually do. Yeah. But I would love to...
only 2 shows a week.
I'd love to point that out and be like, hey, why are you worried about the federal workers there? Why are you okay with giving them money?
Yeah.
Like my money. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I want you to ask that question.
We just rolled over 2 hours and 8 minutes.
We haven't done this long in a while. It's been really fun. I have so many more questions.
We need to re-engage this kind of thing.
Maybe next time we can have that Debra and Kelly at the same time.
That'd be fun.
That might be dangerous.
They could be behind these microphones, and we could share the one.
There's going to be a Facebook page to kick them out of the party afterwards.
Exactly. I think the Republicans are there already.
They can't, but that's the thing. If you think that being in the Republican Party is a good strategy for you, and that's your calling, they can't kick you out.
Yeah.
Right.
If they could kick you out, they would have kicked me out.
Private corporate club. They'll just neuter you.
If you're nice enough, which you should be kind to people, even if you don't like them. If you're kind enough, I won't say nice. You don't have to be nice. If you're kind enough and you don't overtly, not follow some of their basic rules, that they're allowed to have some basic rules because they are a private club, then they can't kick you out.
I love the fact that you just called them a club, because I have been reamed for calling it a club.
Private corporate club is what they are. Chris Ann Hall came. That's the first person I heard.
And for the most part, most of the people involved, not in scale of importance, but most of just the bodies involved, treat it as a country club.
Well,
like
a social gathering of their friends.
All I got to do is point to Ron Paul back in the Republican Party when they went out there and they took all their delegates and basically kicked them out. And then secondly, you look at what happened to Bernie Sanders and the DNC this last time around. If you need any other example that you're in a private corporate club that's going to control exactly who the quote unquote most powerful people are, man, it is an absolute sham.
At every level, there are a few here and there that are controlled by by Liberty people for the most part, which is getting rarer and rarer. But at the highest level, I remember the most amazing thing that I didn't even contemplate when I should have was the National Convention in 2012.
Yeah.
And you had, what's his face? Orange face, who used to...
Boehner.
I think it was him. Reading and like presiding over the whole convention. And we were there. And,
Ron Paul.
No. And there's a teleprompter. And you can see everything he's going to say before he says it.
And everybody's like, boo!
And then they take a vote.
Yeah.
And the result of the vote is on the teleprompter before the vote is taken.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite amazing.
Yeah, it is. So before we wrap up this marathon here, we usually do a short pop quiz basically at the end of the show, the lightning round, if you will. I don't
think that fast. I'm female and blonde.
Oh, why do you hate women? No, I'm sure you've heard us do these. I'm curious.
I've got a few questions to add this time.
Got a favorite book?
A favorite book?
Yep.
The Bible.
Okay.
That's a first.
Yeah. No, it's not.
It's not?
Nope.
Who said Bible?
I believe it was Nick Freitas in our first.
Of course he did.
Yeah. Which congratulations, Nick, on this run.
That was
epic. We'll cover it in the next episode. Sure. Go ahead. What's your question?
What is the vote you most regret taking?
I don't regret any vote I make, because if I regretted it, I wouldn't have made it anyway.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Who is your favorite founding father?
Oh God, you would.
You an anti-federalist or a federalist? No, two questions.
I know.
It can get.
Wow, who is my favorite? I never thought about that.
Patrick Henry.
I like Patrick.
He's pretty good. James Otis Jr. is pretty good too.
I like Hancock.
Yeah.
Thomas Paine.
See, that's not a fair question.
Sure, it's a great
Nathan Hale.
I'll tell you what.
If you start reading, if you start looking at them individually, then
that's what we got to do for everybody.
How do you? I know. It's like, ugh, never had that question thrown at me before. I have to think about that.
All right, you can get back to me on that one.
Okay.
What's my usual last question is where I'm going next, but
when you say if you could eliminate only one, would it be the Department of Education, the IRS, or the Federal Reserve?
If I could eliminate one?
Only one.
The IRS.
Okay. And favorite question that I usually ask is cats or dogs?
Dogs. You saw me all over your dog when I was
I don't
dogs.
know.
I'm not a cat person because they tend to want to own everything. That doesn't work in my house.
You got a different relationship with the things you feed?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like...
we were joking around the other day, Kenobi, my Doberman, right?
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you think I'm running this? Like, that's all a sham, right? Like, I am her personal everything. I'm personal chauffeur. I make sure that she is exercised, so I'm also her personal trainer. I am her personal chef because I make sure she gets fed the right things day and night, so she's extremely athletic and everything else. Like, I make her bed. I'm her maid,
her caretaker,
man,
her nurse.
Darn right.
Yeah.
I've seen you put little stuff on her, like her feet when she got hurt and so forth.
I'm a doctor. Yeah. You name it. Yeah.
I've got a husband and 2 boys.
Yeah.
And they were like, and the people said, well, did you not want to try for a girl? There can only be one queen bee in that house, and I or her.
I was on the table getting fixed after my first girl. About a month later, maybe less than a month later, I was like, man, this is about all I can do. So I get it. But Deborah, we thank you. I feel like we barely scratched the surface, even with 2 hours. I feel like we could do this a lot more. But
well, I actually love listening to y'all guys. So that's why I loved watching you banter back and forth. I do this when I listen to it on Facebook anyway.
Is there anything you want to promote?
Anything I want to promote?
Mm-hmm.
Well, right now, I will say I left the GOP and was focusing on the GRA because they align more with what I believe in. Mm-hmm. I think Alex Alex Johnson,
which we need to have on the show.
Yeah. Oh God, yes. I think he is a phenomenal leader. The people we have in there, like I've mentioned before, Catherine Bernard, Jack Staver, Nathaniel Darnell, Ron Hooper, Mike Scupine. to surround.
Mike too.
Oh yeah, Mike would be good.
Yeah.
I felt. I don't know if y'all have ever walked up into a crowd and just felt at home.
Yeah.
And you just your breaths were easier. You didn't have to wonder where they stood. It just permeated from them.
Well, some lady with tears in her eyes welcomed me to the GRA, and I'm telling you, I understand it very well.
So that's where my focus is right now, is growing, because they are right now the majority of the ones focused on working and growing it. To me, are the core beliefs of the Republican Party, because the Republican Party has gotten so far off from it. Yeah. The only other thing I would promote is just let every individual work on becoming a more educated and informed voter. Mm-hmm. Because when we look at who we're sitting in these seats, we can no longer point the finger at them, because they didn't get there without us putting them there, whether you voted for them or not. If you didn't vote for them, it's because you didn't work hard enough for the person that you wanted there. Yeah. So when you're pointing fingers, you got 3 pointing back at you, mm-hmm. good or bad. And I know with Trump being in town, and like I said, I voted for Trump, business head. I wanted a business head. You know, the ego thing is, as long as he's getting things done for the right reasons. But last night on television, on the news, they were interviewing some people who were down there. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that stood out to me was the lady that they interviewed, and this was her exact words. He is such a superhero. And we even backed it up to play it again. Mm-hmm. He's a superhero. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. That's who you put as your superhero.
I get it. I it makes my jaw drop, and and yeah.
I guess I'm not enamored with politicians, which is why you won't see me with selfies.
Yeah, and rightly so. Nobody should be, but
no. But I appreciate what you guys do. I love what you do, and I push it every chance I get. I'm still waiting for that rebellion tattoo to come out. So
I'll send you. You let me know where you want to go for your ink, and I'll send it there, and they can put it on. But I'll tell you guys, thank you again for coming in, making time, spending 2 hours and 20 minutes with us now.
And thank you for your husband for waiting patiently.
Very patient man. You know, if he's not into this kind of conversation, and that was actually kind of our first live audience for a while that you guys didn't see behind the scenes here.
I've gotten on your position, because then I didn't have to. I forgot that he was there.
Yeah.
He's very quiet. Sometimes I forget he's at home.
Well, no, I mean, if I can't see him,
perfect. Perfect husband.
Yeah.
Trophy husband at that. But if you found value in the show, you can go to patreon.com/rebelliopod. Become a patron. We need all the help we can get. Banks is getting real close to launching this website, and hopefully
it will not be this week, by the way, guys, but hopefully the next.
It's coming. If you don't have a couple shekels to rub together, like Banks would say,
Banks doesn't say shekels.
Yeah, I think you said shekels in the last program.
I'm just copying you. You're such a
big
big influence
nickels
on my life.
Rubbed together. You can go out and leave us a 5-star review. Need all those that we can possibly get
on Facebook or on Apple Podcasts.
Anything.
And if you've done it only on one platform, why haven't you done it on the other platform?
do both.
Like, you can literally say anything you want in there, and we'll read it.
This is us groveling for reviews.
I'm not groveling.
But thank you for all the 5-star reviews. I think we still only have 1 4-star, so
we do.
That is.
I still wish the person who gave the 4-star would come forward and tell us. They
don't believe in perfection. I'll tell you right now. I love it. And secondly, or I should say, lastly, out of all the things, if you got anything to bring to our attention, info@rebellionpod.com. You can send it there. Banks and I will take a look at it and possibly throw it up on our Facebook page or Twitter, or possibly even talk about it here on the Rebellion. So, with that being said,
I will actually quote an email that I got the other day. I don't remember who it was. Was it Aaron? It might have been. But somebody said that we should tell people, since we have started putting out videos pretty consistently, to go on to the YouTube page and to subscribe. Even if you're not going to use YouTube, just become one of the subscribers so the numbers go up.
Yeah, share it.
Would be great. And if you watch some of our videos, remember while you're watching at some point to like it or dislike it, whichever you prefer.
And you can share
that
from,
helps the algorithm.
You can share from a certain moment too. If you find a clip that you like at a certain moment, you can click a little box in the share, and it'll share from that timestamp out there. And yeah, I'll tell you what, I've had a lot of fun kind of making these, and now that I'm getting much better at it, like I am, when I had to just put the audio together, to be able to sit there and do this and find the clips and go back and see what we appear like to everybody else. It's something I'm extremely proud of. It's to be here in 140 episodes, to have the quality of sound and the video getting better with each one of these things, and now starting to come out on the same day even. Like, I'm extremely proud of it, and if you guys are out there sharing it, I'll tell you what, it reinforces what we're doing, and is growing a culture that is all about individual liberty, that doesn't need the government in their lives at
or
every
parties.
facet. Yeah, all that stuff. But we are absolutely humbled, and I mean this. We love every one of you guys that's out there, that's listening, that's helping us, that's sharing, whatever you're doing to contribute to get this thing off the ground. And I have to remind myself all the time, you're not even 2 years in. You're just getting started. And when this thing comes to a crescendo and that just explodes, you better get ready for what is about to happen. I think this country is changing faster than ever. I think technology is helping us do that. And the powerful thing about the truth is, it can't be defeated. It's one of those things that when, Dr. Paul said that when an idea's time has come, there isn't any army or government that can stop it. It's here. And it's happening. So.
I love when Shane is optimistic. Like, it makes me he does have a way of encouraging people and making them cry sometimes.
So
yeah.
Go out there, share this message. We love you guys. We need you more than anything.
This has been your place for peace, liberty, and free markets. Thank you for coming on the show, Debra.
Oh, thank you. And I challenge everyone listening to take their logo, put it on your little picture on your Facebook page so they can see how many of us there are.
I love it.
Peace.
Don't hurt people and don't take their stuff.